Chapter 1792. The question Han Fei asked in his heart was, where can I get the method to disassemble 100% of spiritual energy? The purpose of this question was to see if there was the answer to the last 1% of spiritual energy disassembling in this bronze door. Han Fei smiled bitterly. At this moment, he proved that his suspicion was correct. The old turtle was just an emperor, and there were many things that the emperor didn't know at all. For example, the old turtle thought that the venerable emperor could only reach 95% or more of spiritual energy disassembling. But as soon as Han Fei tested it, he immediately found the problem. The person inside was absolutely 100% sure. Otherwise, the nautical panorama wouldn't be able to point at him. After confirming that there was the answer in the bronze door, Han Fei immediately took out the 9-palace ruler of fortune. However, to Han Fei's great surprise, he had been prepared for such a desperate situation. However, the result given by the ruler of fortune turned out to be an auspicious hexagram. F*ck Han Fei was dumbfounded. This was the first time that he got an auspicious hexagram since he got the 9-palace ruler of fortune. Han Fei's eyes immediately lit up. This meant that he could enter this door. The old turtle said, "An auspicious hexagram? Are you going in?" Han Fei nodded. "Of course. The hexagram shows that I can enter. There is a great opportunity, so I must enter. Old Yuan, remember not to make a sound if there is a special situation." The old turtle nodded. "Got it." Han Fei responded to Xia Xiaochan, "Girl, don't be surprised no matter what happens later." Xia Xiaochan asked, "What are you going to do?" Han Fei said, "I'm going to take a look inside the door." Xia Xiaochan was dumbfounded. She was stuck at about 2,000 meters. "You've already run 2,600 meters, and you still want to enter the door?" Xia Xiaochan asked. "How dangerous is it?" Han Fei said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Have you forgotten that I have the ruler of fortune with me?" Hearing the words, ruler of fortune, Xia Xiaochan was slightly relieved. "Then I'll wait for you outside." Han Fei said to the ice and snow spirit via voice transmission, "I will disappear later. If there is any problem during my absence, remember to take the ice and snow lotus away. You can put it directly into your storage space." Han Fei wasn't worried that there would be any problem if the ice and snow spirit did this. After all, it was a portable small world. Although it was rare, it didn't mean that it didn't exist. Bingxue Chuling was surprised. What did Han Fei mean by disappear? But she still agreed immediately. "Okay." An hour later, creak, when the bronze door opened again, a ray of light began to shine. With a bang, the airwaves around Han Fei were detonated. To everyone's astonishment, Han Fei suddenly stood up. Many people looked at each other, wondering what he was going to do. Wu Hao and the others who were closest to him sensed that Han Fei's vitality was soaring crazily. The faint red wine in the surroundings was also crazily pouring into his body. The water under their feet even began to flow backwards. "Creak, Song Hong Yu. What is he trying to do? He can still stand up in the face of such a terrifying pressure." Li Kaitian. "Oh my God, could it be that this guy wants to enter the door?" The group of people looked at Li Kaitian like he was an idiot. Someone directly mocked, "Are you stupid?" It was difficult to take even a step forward. Although he was close to the front, he was still 400 meters away from the bronze door. Fly there? Xia Hai, it's impossible. This bronze door will only be open for about 10 minutes a day. In such a short time, let alone go in. If he can move 10 steps forward, I will eat this door. Lu Ran. People from the Golden Crow Heaven are all bragging. However, among the people, only Song Kaiyuan said leisurely, "I'm afraid Li Kaitian is right this time. Isn't he? Huh?" Just as the crowd was wondering why Song Kaiyuan was sighing with emotion, they saw that the bronze gate had opened to its widest extent. Huh! When the power of the Great Way hit him, Han Fei roared and enveloped himself with the invincible golden body. His strength had reached the peak and was comparable to that of king. Bam! 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 Under the terrifying pressure, Han Fei began to run wildly. At this moment, countless people were shocked. Ba Muling was dumbfounded. "Wait, old scoundrel Situ, try hitting me." Are my eyes deceiving me? Situ Yuhong sneered. If I hit you, it will bounce back to me. Do you think I'm stupid? Just hit me, and you'll know. Pa, Bai Muling slapped a palm into the water and said with a sigh, this person's strength is somewhat ridiculously strong. If I didn't know better, I might think he's a king. Xia Xiaochan was also stunned. The hexagon starfish exclaimed, seriously? How can he run in this situation? In the end, a great demon of the 100 Demons clan who had attacked Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan felt cold sweat on his back. Damn it, should I run? I wonder if that guy will hold a grudge against me. Under everyone's speechless and shocked gazes, Han Fei sprinted. Every step he took on the ground, everyone felt as if a stone was smashing into their hearts. In fact, at this moment, Han Fei had already reached his fastest speed. The first 200 meters, Han Fei rushed over in one breath. The 300 meters, Han Fei took 3 seconds. In the last 100 meters, Han Fei roared and burned his essence blood. He ran as fast as a child, but he already felt that he was running fast. Crack, when the power of the Great Way stopped rushing out of the bronze gate. Han Fei knew that the gate was about to close. Han Fei's blood and qi were burning again, illuminating the whole space with golden light. Swish, when the golden light faded and the white gate was closed, Han Fei was nowhere to be seen. Li Kaiyan's eyes widened. I was just kidding. I didn't expect that he would take it seriously. Jianhui glanced at Li Kaiyan. It's none of your business. Song Kaiyuan said leisurely. From a moment he stood up, I knew something was wrong. At that moment, the spiritual energy around him was changed in an instant. It was no longer spiritual energy, but the power of the Great Way. He carried the last 400 meters with his own Great Way. I finally understand why this person can resist the blow of a king. It's because the Great Way he walks on has such an ability. Li Kaitian scoffed. Speak normally. Song Kaiyuan snorted. When he uses the Great Way, he is comparable to a king. His Song Kaiyuan's words horrified all of them. So, we were robbed by a king, weren't we? Lu Ran said, hey, Xiahai, right? I heard that you want to eat the bronze gate. Don't just say it. How about you try it? A few meters behind Song Kaiyuan, a girl smiled and said, he has to be able to walk to the gate first. Then the girl looked at Song Kaiyuan and said telepathically, Senior brother, who is this person? You really didn't see it? Song Kaiyuan said lightly, let's talk about it at home. Mui Shui Sisi couldn't help but be surprised. Her senior brother had always been unreliable. However, his insight and insight were unparalleled in the world. Han Fei had fought in front of him. She didn't believe that her senior brother didn't see anything. Seeing that Song Kaiyuan was talking seriously, Mui Shui Sisi didn't ask anymore. This person must be extraordinary for her senior brother to be so cautious. When everyone outside the bronze gate was shocked, Han Fei rushed into the bronze gate. Han Fei, however, came to a white, illusory place. This seemed to be the top of a mountain. Han Fei could even feel the wind. When Han Fei looked up, he seemed to see a vague figure sitting on the top of the mountain. However, the figure was extremely tall, as if a giant was sitting in front of him. It was as holy as a Buddha, shocking people's hearts and making them want to kneel down devoutly. With just a glance, Han Fei's eyes immediately stung, and golden blood gurgled out. I can't look straight at it. I can't look straight at it. Only then did Han Fei notice that he was on a platform about thousands of meters away from the top of the mountain. And he was sitting, and there was even a futon under his butt. When Han Fei turned his head to look elsewhere, he found that he was not alone on this mountain. Not far away, there was a phantom covered by white mist, which looked like a bug, lying on the mountain. It was 100 meters long, so Han Fei could barely distinguish it. On the other side, there seemed to be a waterfall, and there seemed to be fish rushing against the waterfall. Above the sky, there seemed to be a giant bird hovering, its wings spread like clouds hanging in the sky, and its tail spanned tens of thousands of meters across the void. Behind Han Fei, there seemed to be a skeleton the size of a mountain, tens of thousands of meters high, standing with its head down. Somewhere in the mountain spring, there was gurgling water, and there seemed to be glowing flowers swaying there. F***, what's going on here? Calm down. While Han Fei was looking around, there seemed to be a voice coming from the distant sky, above the ninth heaven. That voice fell in Han Fei's mind. Han Fei subconsciously raised his head and sat upright. Han Fei was sure that the voice came from the one above, but he didn't dare to look up. The mountain-like skeleton didn't even dare to raise its head. The one said, "The Great Way is in the heart, and the Great Way is a creature." Han Fei realized that this person was giving a lecture. This was probably the scene of a god preaching that the old turtle said. Of course, the one in front of him might not be a god, but at least a venerable emperor. Han Fei tried very hard to hear every word clearly, but except for the word "calm down," Han Fei thought he had remembered every word, but he forgot them in an instant. However, the most terrifying thing was that Han Fei even forgot the act of forgetting them. Han Fei seemed to be stunned, sitting cross-legged on the top of the mountain. There was a buzzing sound in his ears, and he didn't have any consciousness. However, even Han Fei himself didn't know that his blood and qi were returning to him, and there was a divine light appearing in front of his forehead. In his body, the energy suppressed by the old turtle surged out like a tide. However, when this energy washed through Han Fei's body, it dissipated in the wind with a large amount of white impurities and some golden light particles. Han Fei didn't know that in his Forge the Universe, the massive amount of spiritual stones were shattering crazily. On average, hundreds of pieces would shatter every second. He didn't know how long it had been, but Han Fei finally heard a voice, and then he instantly woke up. The ethereal voice said leisurely, "Okay, that's all for today. You can go now." Han Fei was shocked. "What the hell? I'm gone now. I've just arrived." However, among the mountains, many voices responded at the same time, "Goodbye, senior brother, Han Fei." And Han Fei thought to himself, "Can I still look up?" However, he didn't raise his head, but there was a voice rolling like the sound of the Great Way, shaking his heart. The man said, "The Great Way has no end or door, and there is a path in the void to step on the immortal dust. Entering the void is both a fate and a disaster. When you complete the entrance test, you can call yourself the best disciple of the void." The third chapter, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1793. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Entrance test? A disciple of the void sect? When Han Fei raised his head again, the top of the mountain became clear. There was no one there. Obviously, there was nothing there. Han Fei didn't realize that he had already cultivated. Han Fei was still curious. Where is he? Han Fei was looking around. Han Fei saw that in the waterfall far away, the fish that was swimming upstream a moment ago was swimming. At this moment, it soared into the sky and turned into a dragon shadow, hovering in the sky. This dragon. This was the second time Han Fei saw a dragon after the shadow of the Azure Dragon. Before Han Fei could look elsewhere, he heard the dragon roar in the sky. "Little junior brother, you must keep in mind what eldest senior brother said." Han Fei thought to himself, who is he talking to? Han Fei couldn't help but look at the big insect that was lying not far away from him. He couldn't see its face at all, but only saw a vague image there. The insect said, "Little junior brother, welcome to the Void Temple." Han Fei's lips twitched. He looked around for a while, only to hear the insect say, "Stop looking. I'm talking to you." Hiss. Han Fei immediately gasped. "Wait, when did I become your junior brother? Also, what kind of place is the Void Temple?" Hiss. Hiss. Hearing something behind him, Han Fei turned around, only to see a skeleton as high as a mountain. Although he still couldn't see it clearly, it must be a skeleton. He could see the shadow of the skeleton and the elongated skull. The skeleton opened its mouth, and its voice seemed to come from hell. "Those who enter the Void Gate are void dwellers. Junior brother, you are not strong enough. You must work harder." On the next mountain, a giant human-shaped shadow set foot on the top of the mountain, revealing only its scarlet eyes. Its voice hummed. "The great Tao is like a pot of wine. The heavenly Tao often asks about nothingness. Junior brother, in the Void Temple, what you see is nothing. You are not strong enough to see through the nothingness. I'll give you a pot of Tao-seeking wine. I hope you can return to the Void Temple as soon as possible." Then he saw a streak of green light flying over from the next hill. The green light broke through the mist, the layers of void, and the endless time and obstacles before it finally fell into Han Fei's hands. When he took a closer look, he found that it was a small wooden gourd. However, the information that appeared in Han Fei's eyes shocked him. A string of information emerged in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Green Thunder Wine Calabash. Introduction. It was refined from the azure sky gourd, a spiritual treasure of heaven and earth. It was forged by the essence fire of the thunder pool. The green gourd could absorb all spirits in the world and turn them into wine. It could absorb souls, living beings, the spiritual energy of the world, and the aura of chaos. It could change its size at will. It could travel with the wind, break through mountains and seas, and control lightning. When the spring water of the world was placed in the gourd, it could produce the best wine in the world. 10-year fine wine, 100-year Tao-seeking wine, 1,000-year heavenly Tao wine, and 10,000-year longevity wine. Quality, high-quality divine artifact, attached spirit, none, effect, endless magical effects, recastable, unrefined. Remarks: a divine artifact. Do not easily recognize its master. F***CK. When he saw this information, Han Fei was shocked. F***CK. Are you bragging to me? This is a F***King high-quality divine artifact, but it turned out to be a wine calabash? A high-quality divine artifact? What kind of existence would be able to use such a terrifying weapon? Han Fei finally knew why the Nine-Palace ruler of luck told him that he had an auspicious divination. This was more than auspicious. This was simply a divine artifact that had descended from the heavens, a blessing that reached the heavens. Han Fei's reaction was very fast. 3 divine temples. This was definitely one of the 3 divine temples. The divine temples that he knew before were the Temple of Time, the Temple of Immortality, and the last one was probably the Void Temple. Han Fei's vision was only limited to the 36 mysterious heavens. Who could have known that he would somehow become a disciple of the Void Temple? Oh no, not just that. There seemed to be an entrance test. Besides, this temple was incredible. These senior brothers all seemed to be extraordinary. Han Fei hurriedly said, "Senior brother, can I recognize your calabash as its master? It won't suck me to death, will it?" On the top of the mountain, the huge figure said, "The divine artifact has a spirit. It nourishes itself every day and will recognize its master in the future." Hearing this, Han Fei immediately breathed a sigh of relief. So, I still can't recognize it as its master. If I can't recognize it as its master, this thing can only be a wine calabash. If I fall and hit it, the calabash will be unhappy and will definitely suck me to death. Han Fei saw a spiritual pool on the mountainside, and there seemed to be flowers swaying in the pool, letting out crisp laughter. The voice said, "The Void Temple. It's been a long time since someone came here. Old guy, how dare you give away the Tao-seeking wine? Do you know that going too far is as bad as not going far enough?" The giant figure on a mountaintop said, "I do what I want. It's none of your business. Forget it. Eldest senior brother's class is over. I have to go. See you another day." In the sky, the dragon shadow also said, "I'm going back too." The big bird also responded, "I'm leaving. Little junior brother, work hard." In the nothingness, they all left one after another. Han Fei looked back, and even the big skeleton was gone. Han Fei didn't feel good at all. The insect next door still wanted to speak, but Han Fei hurriedly stopped it. "Wait a minute. Senior brother, how can I go back?" The insect said, "The Void Temple is in the nothingness, and this world is all nothingness. You can go back as soon as you think about it." Han Fei hurriedly asked, "Then how can I come in?" The insect said again, "Eldest senior brother's class depends on your luck. Since you can come in now, as long as you don't die, you will have a chance to come in the future. Everyone's luck is different. You will know." Han Fei asked again, "Senior brother, what is the entrance test? Isn't there an entrance test?" The insect said, "Little junior brother, you will know when the test comes. It is the test of the Void Temple." With that, The insect's figure faded in the nothingness. After Han Fei confirmed that there was nothing here, Han Fei asked in his heart, "Old Yuan? Old Yuan?" However, Han Fei found that Old Yuan didn't respond at all. Han Fei wanted to take a look at the demon purification pot. Inside the demon purification pot, Old Yuan seemed to be meditating. He didn't cultivate, didn't move, and didn't respond when he called him. Han Fei suddenly woke up. Damn it, didn't I come here to find answers? Just now. So many people were here, but I didn't even think to ask about the last 1% of the spiritual energy disassembly rate. Now that they were all gone, what should I do? However, Han Fei suddenly thought of something. The next moment, Han Fei sensed himself and was shocked. His spiritual energy disassembly rate was 100%. Hiss! Han Fei was stunned. What the hell did I do? Why is it 100%? Han Fei quickly looked at his personal information, only to be confused again. Owner, Han Fei, level greater than 89. Half King. C 10,000 Family Tree. 2720986. Chaotic Gas. 2. 276. Spiritual Power. 306253. Perception Range greater than 200,000 kilometers. Power greater than 32,265 waves. First Spiritual Heritage. Unknown. Second Spiritual Heritage. Unknown. First Spiritual Beast. Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish. Level 79. Second Spiritual Beast Emperor Sparrow. Level 77. Main Art Void Arrival. Level 7 of Void Fishing. King Level Divine Quality. Good-oo. Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. Didn't I just come here? Why am I already a half-king? What did I do? Not only am I a half-king, but Little Black and Little White have also advanced. Han Fei's heart trembled, and he thought, not good. I've been here for a long time. The Bronze Gate might have been opened because of the first senior brother's lecture. But now, the first senior brother has suspended the class. How long has it been? Out. I have to go out as soon as possible. Han Fei thought to himself. Oh no, Xia Xiaochan is still waiting for me. Han Fei didn't expect that a long time might have passed in the outside world in the blink of an eye. If a long time had passed in the outside world, not only would he be separated from Xia Xiaochan, but he wouldn't even be able to go to the glass sky. Han Fei couldn't care less. He immediately calmed down, ignored the nothingness, and said to himself, return. Creak, Han Fei saw darkness appear in front of his eyes. The next moment, a lot of people appeared in front of him. Some of these people were kneeling, some were standing, but most were sitting cross-legged. Han Fei took a closer look. Isn't it the Bronze Gate? Xia Xiaochan is still standing there. Wu Hao is still standing first. At this moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on the Bronze Gate. Within the white light, a black-robed figure stood proudly, as if he had come from the unknown, from the void, from a faraway place, causing everyone to involuntarily hold their breath. There was a lot of exclamations. Someone exclaimed, "Why is it him? Where's the power of Tao?" A half-king was shocked. Not good. The pressure is fading rapidly and weakening. Han Fei couldn't help but look up at the Bronze Gate above his head. The gigantic door was slowly closing. Besides, a layer of white mist gradually appeared on the Bronze Gate. In other people's eyes, it was white mist, but Han Fei stood next to it and watched the Bronze Gate gradually fade in the void with his own eyes. After about 10 minutes, there was no Bronze Gate here at all. There was nothing at all. At this moment, the pressure was gone, and everyone's strength was directly restored to the peak. Han Fei couldn't help but feel a headache. He said, "If I tell you that I didn't do it, would you believe me?" Someone sneered. "You're already a half-king. Didn't you do it?" Han Fei thought to himself. Yes, it's hard to explain the fact that I crossed from the peak of the Venerable Realm to the half-king realm. If I didn't do anything, how did I break through to the half-king realm? However, the fact was that I didn't do anything. Han Fei felt that as soon as he entered, the class was over. I came out after the class was over. Who could have expected that I would break through to the half-king realm in just 10 minutes? Chapter 1794. As soon as Han Fei came out, the Bronze Gate disappeared, which was equivalent to cutting off everyone's opportunity. This time, Han Fei had really angered everyone. However, Han Fei's strength couldn't be underestimated. In any case, this was a freak who could rush into the Bronze Gate. It wouldn't be easy to defeat him. Song Kaiyuan said to the people around him, "Listen up, none of you are allowed to take action." No. Some people from Hunter Demon race and the Ocean Human race were eager to try. Beidang Xian and the others from the Wuji Heaven also narrowed their eyes, not knowing what to do. But then, everyone found that behind Han Fei, the mist disappeared and a broken void appeared. Han Fei looked back, only to hear a BM, and the void was shattered. Swish, 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 streaks of light flew out. Because they were too fast, some were embedded in the rock wall, some fell into the blood pool, and some were swallowed by the blood toads above the blood pool. Most of them were intercepted in midair by these people in front of the Bronze Gate. Someone holding an ancient long sword shouted, "It's the key to the Imperial Palace." So many of them. At this time, as many as 300 people flew over and fought for the keys. Many people selectively forgot Han Fei. Fighting for the key to the Imperial Palace became one of their excuses. A half-king thought, "I'm not going to fight for that person. One look and I can tell that this guy isn't easy to deal with. Forget it." Among the humans on the seabed, Shun Yu shouted, "Don't fight with this person. This person is so strong that ordinary half-kings are no match for him." Xia Xiaochan grabbed the hexagon starfish in one hand and appeared next to Han Fei, asking with concern, "Are you okay?" Han Fei shook his head. When he sensed the half-king aura on Xia Xiaochan, he couldn't help but say, "I'm fine. How was your breakthrough?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "I don't need to go through a tribulation. I have all the resources I need. I wanted to consolidate my cultivation with the power of Tao, but you came out before I could." Han Fei hurriedly said, "Don't use it. Don't use it. The power of Tao is much better than consolidating your cultivation." Hearing Han Fei's exaggerated description, Xia Xiaochan couldn't help but be shocked. Is the power of Tao really so useful? While everyone was fighting, Han Fei sent a projection to the Ice Lotus. Crack, 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 someone was charging at the Snow God's temple, and the Ice Lotus was blooming. But Holy Child Shuizhan reappeared in front of everyone. Everyone saw that this guy actually used his finger as a sword, and the tip of the sword was intertwined with spiritual energy. With a puff, a heavenly talent of the 100 Demon Clan was pierced through by Han Fei. Icy Snow, Chilling used Snowmorn to land the killing blow. This person's divine soul was frozen solid. Han Fei punched in the air and blasted the elite of the 100 Demon Clan into pieces. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The battle only lasted for a few breaths of time before the underground world began to shake. Cracks had appeared on the supposedly incomparably hard underground mountain. In the blood pool, the blood tumbled. The water in the blood pool began to rise slightly. Someone was horrified. Not good. The space here is about to collapse. We can't stay here for long. Someone's face changed greatly. If you want to fight, let's fight outside. Otherwise, we'll all die here. Many people glanced at Han Fei before leaving, wondering to themselves, what the hell did this guy do? How did he collapse this place? Han Fei was also puzzled. What the hell does this have to do with me? Besides, I haven't even seen the undersea heavenly palace yet. Why is it collapsing? Han Fei was speechless too. He exchanged a look with Xia Xiaochan. Let's go. Let's talk about it outside. To leave this place, they would have to use small wooden boats. All the people here were half-king realm experts. How much could a small wooden boat carry? These are just ordinary wooden boats. If they were hit by a half-king realm expert, they would be smashed into pieces in an instant. Therefore, it was not uncommon for people to bombard each other on the surface of the sea. Someone was bombarded by multiple people at the same time. The boat collapsed, and he fell into the blood pool. That person still wanted to struggle out with his strength, but it was as if the mountains and rivers were crushing down on his body. He was stunned and couldn't jump out of the pool. Following that, the scene didn't look good. From all directions, countless blood scabs surged and surged towards the man. In the blink of an eye, above the half-king realm expert, blood scabs piled up like a hill. That half-king realm expert was hopeless. At this moment, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were also traveling by boat. Han Fei punched the blood pool, and the boat flew fast. If Xia Xiaochan wanted to leave, no one from the mermaid clan would attack her. But in addition to the mermaid clan, there were also the human clan, the 100 Demons clan, and the undersea human clan. As soon as Han Fei entered the Bronze Gate, he almost offended everyone. No matter whether he got anything good or not, everyone thought he got a treasure. At this time, Shun Yu, who had been robbed by Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan, sneered at Han Fei. I admit that you're strong, but this is not the outside world. Petrifying me, Shun Yu knew that she was no match for Han Fei. However, there was no need to be fair when fighting here. Shun Yu used her unique skill and directly petrified the boat under Han Fei's feet. After this blow, the hull of the boat naturally lost its floating characteristic. Han Fei didn't have time to activate the restrictive spell here, so half of their boat directly sank. Han Fei sneered. You want to stop me with such despicable means? Kill. Han Fei made a fist seal, and with the support of the invincible Taoist aura, he smashed over. Wherever he passed, the strong people retreated. This punch was so fierce that most Half-King Realm experts felt that they couldn't resist it after seeing it. Shun Yu sneered. Humph, no matter how strong you are, so what? In front of Shun Yu, a dark void opened up. All the power of Han Fei's punch fell into it. After Han Fei's boat turned into a stone boat, it attracted a lot of people's attention. A mermaid clan expert shouted, Your Highness, I'm here to save you. Some human experts secretly activated their soul skills and attacked Han Fei. Among them, one of the soul skills was a soul knife, which cut the soul directly. Bam! Han Fei's soul power was not weak either. The soul eater of 100 beasts shattered this knife head-on. He couldn't help but look at Beitang Xian of the Wuji Heaven. Beitang Xian's heart did a flip. Did he find out that I attacked so secretly? What keen insight! In addition to Beitang Xian, in fact, Han Fei also felt a soul bombardment technique from the Mermaid Clan. Han Fei took out the embroidery needle and casually launched another heavenly god stab, shattering this soul attack. Rise! Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan jumped up at the same time. In the next moment, a small wooden boat appeared beneath their feet. Huh. Shun Yu and the others were stunned. Damn, where did this small wooden boat come from? Would there be more than one of these ships? Han Fei grinned and said, There's a restrictive spell here. At this moment, all the combat skills above the blood pool that had been full of strange light were extinguished. Han Fei's fist shadows activated with spiritual energy and bombarded the blood pool. Once there was a restrictive spell, many people's techniques couldn't be used. In terms of physical combat power, how many people could be Han Fei's opponent? Someone exclaimed, My technique can't be used anymore. Someone was shocked. Not good. My technique also has a problem. Someone hurriedly said, My technique can't run smoothly. There's something wrong with this space. Han Fei grinned. The small boat under Han Fei's feet rushed like a sharp arrow. Because he had used the knife-drawing technique, Han Fei held a short knife and slashed with all his strength, and the knife-like cut through the entire blood pool. Wherever the knife passed, the waves were diverted. Shun Yu had no choice but to use the void technique again. When he activated the technique, Han Fei discovered that it turned out to be a king's technique. No wonder it could resist the restrictive spell. This was not Shun Yu's own ability. But just when Shun Yu thought Han Fei couldn't kill him, he felt that the restrictive force of the void suddenly disappeared. And Han Fei's flashed and crossed his void barrier. Puff! Han Fei had just comprehended the power of the loss. Even if Shun Yu was extremely talented, how could he resist it? Shun Yu was directly cut into two pieces by Han Fei. Swish, Han Fei flashed through the void with his boat. Everyone was shocked. This person is so fast. Shun Yu was cut in half, but his consciousness was still there. When he saw Han Fei suddenly appear, he couldn't care less and exploded himself. Rumble, the self-explosion of a half-king, directly caused the entire blood pool to shake. For a time, all the half-kings used their own techniques to protect themselves, causing the battle here to be in a stalemate. Han Fei frowned. It's a pity. This person used the power of his self-explosion to send a part of his power out. I can't kill him in this blood pool. Shun Yu ran away, which made Han Fei very uncomfortable. If it weren't for the blood pool, Shen Yu would have been dead long ago, and he wouldn't have had the chance to play these tricks. Shen Yu escaped with a wisp of his soul. At this moment, although Han Fei wanted to immediately turn the spearhead and directly attack Beidang Xian, but at this moment, the entire bottom of the sea was full of blood. The blood was flying all over the sky, and the water of the blood pool was splashed everywhere. In the melee, Han Fei was attacked by dozens of soul attacks one after another. And when Han Fei was dealing with Shen Yu just now, Xia Xiaochan was dealing with these soul attacks. Xia Xiaochan said, "Someone in the mermaid clan also wants to kill me." Han Fei nodded. "I found it. It seems to be that woman." Han Fei looked in one direction through the blood curtains. Xia Xiaochan said, "Mermaid Xiao Xiao, I know this person. I have never been on good terms with her. I didn't expect that this person dared to attack me." Han Fei said, "Let's not worry about this. The space here is too narrow. We'd better leave here first." Chapter 1795. In fact, Han Fei could still fight as long as he projected himself. Even if he didn't project himself, he still had many powerful techniques to use. However, when he was Saint Child Shuizhan, he had exposed part of his strength. There were too many people here, and he didn't know who saw through Shuizhan's identity. Han Fei didn't want to expose various combat skills and weapons such as the Infinity Water, so he didn't plan to fight in the blood pool. Except for the blood pool, Han Fei felt he could fight anywhere. Bam! 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 Han Fei didn't use the Infinity Water, and the Invincible will enveloped the entire boat. Han Fei slapped the blood pool with his palm, and the wooden boat flew out as fast as an arrow. Because of Han Fei's strength, if he wanted to leave, those people wouldn't even have a chance to stop him. Xia Xiaochan said, "Don't go far. Block the exit of the blood pool and rob whoever comes." Han Fei couldn't help but take a breath. "You are even more anxious than me," Xia Xiaochan said with an ugly face. "Just now, at least a dozen or 20 people attacked us. How can we let them pass if we don't make them pay?" Han Fei grinned. "That's a good idea." Above the blood pool, the wooden boat flew, and the half-kings rushed to the entrance. However, what made many people puzzled was that at the entrance, there was a grayish-white fog that had appeared out of nowhere. The mist was light, and people didn't care about it, thinking it was caused by the turbulence here. However, when most people walked to the entrance of the blood pool, they saw two people, one in black and one in white, blocking their way. A woman from the Grand Purity Palace said unkindly, "Are you going to stop more than 300 of us on your own?" However, Xia Xiaochan said, "By mewling, Siti Yuhong, mermaids, listen to my order." In the crowd, By Mewling and Siti Yuhong raised their heads. "Your Highness, what can I do for you?" The remaining 50 merfolk race experts received the order and quickly gathered together. In the next moment, Xia Xiaochan said, "You Xiao Xiao offended her superior and dared to attack me? Take her down." Quite a number of mermaids and mermen paused. This Xiao Xiao is not an ordinary mermaid. Besides, she was extremely strong, on the same level as By Mewling and the others. Yu Xiao Xiao's expression suddenly changed. "I've been very careful. What did I expose myself? Besides, Xia Xiaochan dares to take me down? What does she want to do?" By Mewling and Situ Yuhong immediately took action. How could Xiao Xiao dare to fight against the two powerful warriors and over 50 demi-kings of mermaids and mermen waiting by the exit? She shouted, "Mingzhu, you dare to kill me? My master won't let you off." Xia Xiaochan snorted coldly. "Even if your master is here, he has to call me princess. You Xiao Xiao, today if I tell you to die here, then you will die here." Hearing this, Yu Xiao Xiao's face changed drastically. In her eyes, Xia Xiaochan was just a bit brainless before. Xiao Xiao's Yu Xia, she as she was, as she wanted. She retreated quickly and shouted, "It's fine if you want to kill these people, but you want to kill me as well?" Yu Xiao Xiao turned her head and said coldly, 36 black heavens, do you want to die?" Yu Xiao Xiao turned her head and said coldly, 36 Xiantian cultivators, why are you still not charging in? Do you want to die? In fact, Beitang Xian of the Wuji Heaven had already prepared an excuse. He said, This is your merman race's own matter. Why are you blocking our way? Are you going to start a war? Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei, and Han Fei chuckled. Start a war? From the moment you attacked me, it was already a war. What? Have you forgotten what you just did? Beitang Xian's face changed drastically. Did he find out? However, even if Han Fei found out, what could he do? He admitted that Han Fei was strong. But no matter how strong he was, he couldn't be a king. Besides, Han Fei was blocking so many people, and the blood pool was moving. The situation was critical. At this moment, Han Fei blocked the door, which obviously angered everyone. Beitang Xian shouted, Everyone, the blood pool has been overturned, and a catastrophe is coming. This person is clearly a tyrant of the mermaids who wants to destroy the 36 Black Heavens. In the eyes of the mermaids, even the 100 Demon Clan and the Sea Human Clan are just mixed bloodlines. We have more than 250 people. Why should we be afraid of them? Let's attack together. Han Fei knew that it was not easy to block these people. In fact, even if a real pioneer sea state was here, such as the White Armor Emperor, even if he went all out, he could only kill dozens of people at most in 10 minutes. The number couldn't be any higher. Half-step monarchs weren't easy targets. Not to mention that those who could come to the land of the fallen monarchs were all outstanding figures of the major factions. Even in clear sky heaven, that destitute Zhao Jin, his strength was actually extraordinary. It was just that he met him. Now, Han Fei was blocking the door, and more than 200 people were charging at him. From their point of view, blocking the door meant taking their lives. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to kill them. There were only about 50 mermaids. Bai Muling and City Yuhong looked at Han Fei and thought, Brother, whose side are you on? We have 50 people. We can't hold them off. Someone shouted, Your Highness, it's dangerous. At this moment, more than 200 half-kings were surging over, and their attacks were fierce and thrilling. Could the king resist them? Han Fei didn't know. Anyway, he couldn't resist them. Almost all the people here were here. Those who should have taken action had already taken action, and only a few of them were watching. When these people were only a few hundred meters away from Han Fei said softly, Explode. BM, 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 BM. However, he saw a faint mist drifting around these people, which unexpectedly exploded with a loud bang. In an instant, a large expanse of gray mist, under the impact of the explosion of endless water vapor, broke the defense of these people. Ew, not good, poisonous gas. Damn it, what's that smell? This is a strange poison. It can penetrate into the body through the skin. It stinks. What the hell is this poison? At this moment, the 100 Demon Clan, the Sea Human Clan, the 36 Immortal Palaces, whoever was contaminated by it all began to retch. They were bleeding from their eyes, nostrils, and ears, which looked extremely horrible. Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming of the 10,000 Poison Heaven were talking to each other telepathically while retching. Bai Jingjiu said, Ew, senior brother, it's so poisonous. This poison directly poisons the soul. It's definitely an ultra-quality poison. Dongfang Ming said, Junior brother, this is not poisonous, but it does have a great impact on the soul. If it's combined with soul poison, it will be extremely poisonous. Bai Jingjiu said, Hurry up and collect the poison. When other people were retching and their strength plummeted, Han Fei saw that 2 people were collecting the stink into his sun moon shell. Wasn't it Bai Jingjiu? Han Fei was lost for words. Han Fei was speechless. The people of the 10,000 Poison Heaven are really interesting. Don't you find it stinky? Han Fei thought to himself, since they're still trying to get this stench in such a situation. It seems that this thing must be an extremely rare poison material for them. He wondered if the stink could be sold as poison. If it could, he would be rich. Spiritual energy protective covers were unfolded one after another. However, it was easy to break a spiritual energy protective cover. Han Fei flicked his fingers and cast 10,000 knives in one. Because the place was very narrow, the blade purgatory was immediately formed. At the moment he cast this skill, Some people in the distance who hadn't taken action were stunned. Among them was Song Kaiyuan of the Taishin Heaven. Behind Song Kaiyuan, his junior sister, Mui Shui Sisi, couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Senior brother, what kind of great skill is this? Or is it a weapon? Why do I feel that it seems to be?" Song Kaiyuan said, "Let's talk about it when we get back." Mui Shui Sisi's heart did a flip. "Can we still go back?" Song Kaiyuan scoffed. "Look at you. Have you forgotten what their slogan is? Clank, clank, clank. Bam, bam, bam." Han Fei's blade purgatory could at least break the spiritual energy protective covers of a group of demi-kings whose strength had been greatly reduced. As for some spirit gatherers, they could block auras, which was normal. Han Fei didn't care. Han Fei cackled. "Vengeful ghosts take souls, ghosts take lives. The valley of the living dead, the black and white ghosts come to the sea again. Money opens the way, resources buy lives. Transactions on the spot, no credit allowed. All of you pay up." The group of more than 50 mermaids, seeing the many demi-kings trapped by the array, all looked at each other in bewilderment. What kind of people did their princess hang out with? The two of them poisoned more than 200 people? Who would dare to believe such a thing? Bai Muling glanced at Sita Yuhong. "Do we need help? Challenge them?" At this moment, Sita Yuhong had an emotional expression as he said, "Princess is still the princess of our merfolk royal clan after all. None of us were poisoned. Of course, we should challenge them." Sita Yuhong roared, "All of you, pay up obediently." Bai Muling shouted, "The blood pool is about to collapse. Do you still want to get out?" In the crowd, Beitang Xian roared, "Asshole. EW, how can the 50 of you resist more than 200 people? EW, everybody don't panic. Let's work together to break this blade domain. Let's go." What Han Fei feared most was this kind of head-on confrontation. Even though his strength had been greatly improved, if more than 200 demi-kings attacked him at the same time, he wouldn't be able to resist them. These were not one or two cabbages, but more than 200 demi-kings. After a round of attacks, he could only intercept and kill a few at most, and the rest would have to run. Therefore, Han Fei didn't panic. It seemed that he had to increase the dosage. Han Fei waved his hand, and a large amount of gray liquid bloomed like a river. The more than 200 people who were about to charge at him all retreated the moment they saw the gray river. Damn it, it was just gas just now. And now this guy has created a river? Who the hell can resist this? Immediately, someone shouted, "Fellow cultivator, do you really want to force us to die here?" Han Fei shouted, "I said pay up. Don't you understand? Pay up." Chapter 1796. Han Fei was extremely arrogant. At this moment, 10,000 people couldn't get out. Han Fei roared, "It's true that I can't stop all of you, but you can have a try, right? If you're not afraid of the stench. Today, I will leave my words here. Everyone can leave after throwing a key to the Arch Palace. But the Grand Pure Palace, the Wuji Palace, and the Golden Crow Palace, if you don't throw down your Sun Moon shells, you won't be able to leave today." At this time, the blood pool was rolling. Everyone had to resist the stench, avoid the bloody toads, and avoid the collapse of the void above the blood pool. However, no matter how critical the situation was, it had nothing to do with Han Fei. Han Fei sneered, "I made it clear that I'm targeting the three of you. F*CKU. How dare you sneak attack me? Arrogant." The 5 disciples of the Grand Pure Palace all drew their swords. However, Han Fei didn't even look at them and threatened, "This blood pool is about to capsize." Many people's faces changed. At this time, Han Fei needed someone to flatter him. Song Kaiyuan took a step forward. "Fellow Taoist in the Soul Burial Valley, we have taken out all our belongings. This time, I'm afraid we're really short of money. The Grand Shin Palace, the Sword God Palace, the Glass Palace, and the Wuyang Palace, each will offer a key to the Imperial Palace. How about that? But can you move this treasure away? I'm afraid I'll be stabbed to death by it." Song Kaiyuan nodded at the infinity water and smiled at Han Fei. Han Fei was surprised. Did this person recognize the infinity water? Yes, he smiled so calmly as if he had seen through everything. Han Fei immediately rolled his eyes and grinned. Look, this is what it means to negotiate with each other. This is called friendly negotiation. The Grand Shin Palace, the Wuyang Palace, the Sword God Palace, and the Glass Palace, please leave quickly. This time, the Grand Shin Palace and the other 3 immortal palaces, led by Song Kaiyuan, went straight to the exit. The half-kings watched Song Kaiyuan throw out 4 keys to the Imperial Palace. Han Fei deliberately opened a way for them to leave with the gray water mass. The next moment, Bing Xue, Chuling, and Saint Child Xue Zhan rushed forward. Xue Zhan turned his hand and took out 4 keys to the Imperial Palace. For people from the Snow God Palace, Han Fei opened the door. Okay, please leave. Shahai of the Golden Crow Heaven was enraged. He roared, Ridiculous! Do you really think you're invincible just because you entered a door? Everyone, there are so many of you here, yet you've been intimidated by these 2 people? Kill them all. This time, even Beidang Xian didn't utter a word. In his heart, he said, You idiot! They have already declared that they want to deal with our 3 families. Would others become enemies with this person for the sake of the Grand Pure One, limitless supremacy, and Golden Crow immortal palaces? Instantly, someone said, Fellow Taoist, my clear sky has 2 people. Someone held up the key to the Imperial Palace. Fellow Taoist, there are 4 of us from Brahma, Intian. Sang Hongyu called out, Fellow Taoist, I'm dragon subduing heaven's 5 people. At this time, someone from the 100 Demon Clan said, Fellow Taoist, our 100 Demon Clan has 62 people. As you said, 62 keys to the Arch Palace? Bai Muling immediately transmitted her voiceover. The 100 demons don't have a good relationship with us. It doesn't matter if they're an inferior race. Han Fei remained calm. F*CK. Do you really think I'm a mermaid? Han Fei said solemnly. As I said, today, I'm only targeting the Grand Pure Palace, the Limitless Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. Everyone else can go. If we leave this place, we'll still be enemies. At that time, we'll decide who's stronger. Hearing this, the half-kings of the 100 demons immediately stepped forward. The keys to the Arch Palace were thrown out one by one. Han Fei's way was open. No matter which force you were from, he would let whoever paid the money go. Bai Muling looked at him. This guy, even if you don't destroy them, you should at least collect more. 1 key to the Arch Palace? What's the big deal? Is this a form of friendship? However, Bai Muling didn't know Han Fei's means at all. A key to the Arch Palace was quite precious in the outside world. However, this was the place where the kings died. In a life-and-death situation, who would hide it if they could use it to save their lives? Of course, this was mainly because Han Fei didn't ask for much. Otherwise, if he really asked for all their belongings, Han Fei wouldn't be able to stop them even if he had the stench. But now, these people were afraid of the stench and always comforted themselves that it was worth it to exchange a key to the Arch Palace for a chance to leave. The 100 demons left, the Seabed human clan followed suit, and the other major immortal palaces of the 36 immortal palaces also left. They were all half-king realm powerhouses. Although it was not easy to find the keys to the underground palace in the place where the kings died, they could still find one. In fact, everyone more or less had a few in their pockets, or even more. It didn't matter if they handed over one, and Beidang Xian and the others could only watch the others leave, but they couldn't do anything about it. Here, there were 5 from the Grand Pure Palace, 4 from the Limitless Heaven, and 3 from the Golden Crow Heaven. There was also Yu Xiao Xiao, who Xia Xiaochan wanted to kill. In total, there were as many as 13 half-kings. However, 13 half-kings didn't give them the slightest confidence. There were more than 50 people on the opposite side. For the mermaids and humans, they were sworn enemies. Han Fei's plan was to kill the Grand Pure Palace, the Limitless Heaven Palace, and the Golden Crow Heaven Palace. They occupied 3 of the top 4 immortal palaces. Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong couldn't help but suspect that Han Fei probably had a deep grudge against these powerful immortal palaces. He was going to kill them all. Xia Xiaochan said to him via voice transmission, Are you sure you want to kill them all? Xia Xiaochan thought that Han Fei was a human being after all, so he would definitely do things from the perspective of humans. Even she had always regarded herself as a human being. She had always felt that she was incompatible with the mermaids and mermaids. On the opposite side, a woman from the Grand Pure Palace said, "I don't know who you are, but you should be a human being. Why are you willing to help the mermaids and mermaids kill us?" "Humph," Han Fei sneered. "If Beitang Xian hadn't attacked me just now, if the sword chi of the Grand Pure Palace hadn't sneaked up on me just now, I wouldn't have minded letting you go." Han Fei's meaning was very clear. The problem was that you attacked them. Beitang Xian didn't refute at this moment. "As far as I know, it's not just the three of us who attacked you." Han Fei grinned and said, "Because the three of you are the strongest. Do you think I care about the other immortal palaces? So as an adult, you have to pay the price for what you've done. I often rob people. If I'm killed, I can only blame it on my bad luck. If you have the ability, come and kill me." However, Xia Xiaochan said, "What are you talking about? All mermaids and mermaids, listen to my order. Kill them all." Xia Xiaochan was even more shameless than Han Fei. Just when Han Fei was about to speak, Xia Xiaochan looked at him and said, "Villains die because they talk too much." Han Fei, well, as soon as Xia Xiaochan gave the order, Sita Yuhong said, "Well, can you take away this stinky water?" Han Fei opened the Sun Moon shell and took back the stinky water. At that moment, Beitang Xian and the others rushed out. More than 50 against 13. What, they ran away. Van Mewling and the others could go back and cultivate in seclusion. TSK. For the first time, Han Fei felt that it was so comfortable to have thugs under his command. He didn't expect that one day he wouldn't have to do it himself. At this moment, the murderous intent soared to the sky. The blood pool was turbulent, and cracks were everywhere. However, it did not collapse immediately. Instead, the pool of blood began to surge everywhere, and the bloody toads crawled all over the place. After more than 10 minutes, the bottom finally collapsed. The mermaids and Beitang Xian and the others also fought to the entrance. However, this time it became 50 against 8. In this short span of 30 breaths, 5 people had fallen. None of them were from the mermaids and mermaids. Among them, 2 were from the Grand Purity Palace, 2 were from the Golden Crow Heaven, and 1 was from the Wuji Heaven. Bam! Beitang Xian killed 2 people with a single slash. Although the 2 of them could still be reborn from a single drop of blood, the combat power of a heavenly talent was highlighted at this moment. Suddenly, Beitang Xian roared, "If you want to kill me, let's see if you have the ability. I'd like to see who can resist my king's attack." At Beitang Xian's neck, a jade pendant shattered. In an instant, a terrifying and monstrous power shook the wilderness. Han Fei, who was watching the show, suddenly changed his expression. This guy's king's attack is different from others. It's so powerful. Han Fei took a step forward, activated the invincible golden body, and his strength soared to the Pioneer Sea Realm. There was also an array mark on the tip of his fist. The main thing was that after the decomposition rate of his spiritual energy reached 100%, Han Fei could almost perfectly release the power in his spiritual energy. Yes, his power of Tao was 30% stronger. And at this time, Han Fei saw a 100-meter-tall man's phantom glance over. The man said, "Humph, mermaids and traitors of the human race, how dare you bully the Wuji Heaven? How dare you?" Bai Mewling immediately shouted, "Retreat! Retreat quickly! It's the Wuji Heaven monster, Yun Tianhe." Han Fei thought to himself, "What the hell is this Yun Tianhe?" However, Han Fei had already burst out with all his strength. It seemed that this Yun Tianhe was indeed extremely powerful, so Han Fei even used the chaotic energy. Waves of air soared into the sky, and the tremendous power of 100,000 waves hit the sea. Xia Xiaochan was shocked to see this, and also threw out a jade slip. Unfortunately, she was half a beat slower than Han Fei. Under the Undersea Heavenly Palace, this maze building was instantly smashed into pieces under the power of Han Fei's fist. And when Yun Tianhe flipped his hand, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Han Fei felt that billions of waves were crashing at him. Han Fei retreated 100 kilometers, and his body smashed layers of seabed rocks. Han Fei's body was badly mutilated, and hundreds of bones were broken. This time he was really wounded, and the power of Yin Tian's attack, after defeating Han Fei and facing the power of Chen Huangyan's attack, finally dissipated. However, immediately afterward, the Grand Purity Palace burst out another king's attack. Xia Xiaochan was extremely fast. She had already come to Han Fei and asked anxiously, "How are you?" Han Fei said, Damn it, why is this guy so strong? I haven't been so seriously injured for a long time. Let me recover first." Xia Xiaochan heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Han Fei was still so talkative. Turning her head, Xia Xiaochan was furious. "Keep fighting and kill them all." Chapter 1797. Fortunately, Han Fei had an indestructible golden body, and every bone in his body had spirituality and was covered by his soul. Therefore, even if every bone in Han Fei's body was broken, he wouldn't die. Even if Han Fei only had one bone left, he could still be reborn. This was the effect of the phenomenal success indestructible overlord body. Others could be reborn from a single drop of blood, but Han Fei could be reborn anywhere. The heavenly awakening divine technique descended, and Han Fei's body was rapidly recovering. Crack, crack, crack. It only took about 10 minutes for Han Fei's flesh and blood to return and his bones to repair. His entire being was filled with energy once again. Xia Xiaochan asked in surprise, "Are you going to fight him again?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes, I like to see how many times he can use that kind of king strike. I don't believe that he doesn't practice king strike. How can he throw such power out casually?" At this moment, the entrance of the blood pool had already collapsed. The bombardment of a large group of mermaids almost flattened the bottom of the sea. Smoke and dust filled the air, and one couldn't see anything except with their soul. When Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan came back, perhaps because of the loud noise, they saw a big hand in the air, snatching away 5 people and slapping 2 mermaids to death. Seeing this scene, Han Fei was so angry that he stomped his feet. "So what if you're king? The gate of the king grave hasn't been closed yet. Let's see where you can run to." Then, Han Fei raised his rod and launched a heaven-knocking gate at the big void hand. A beam of light penetrated the bottom of the sea and poked a hole in the big hand. However, Beitang Xian and the others were still taken away. However, by Muling, Situ Yuhong, and the others swallowed hard and thought to themselves, "What a F** king god." And he even punched through it? Most of the mermaids were dumbfounded. Who the hell is this guy? He doesn't seem to be one of us, does he? By Muling and Situ Yuhong rushed over and took out 8 sun moon shells as if they were presenting treasures. Situ Yuhong replied, "Your Highness, we have indeed tried our best." Those people were probably the best batch of disciples in the 36 mysterious heavens. They had a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Even after repeated bombardments, they were still forcefully blocked. But even if they managed to escape, they will definitely be heavily injured. By Muling hurriedly chimed in, "They'll definitely be heavily injured." I slapped an azure dragon water seal on the golden crow heaven's chest and destroyed a part of its soul. Xia Xiaochan looked into the distance and asked, "Where is mermaid Xiao Xiao? Bring her up?" Bai Muling turned her head to take a look, and immediately someone brought a half-crippled mermaid over. Situ Yuhong said, "Your Highness, Yu Xiao Xiao is the disciple of the number 1 king of sea expansion, Long Yujun. If you kill her like this, I'm afraid she'll be targeted by the royal family in the future." Bai Muling also said, "Yeah, Your Highness, although Jian Wang is powerful, he is still a member of the royal family. Jian Wang is not the only one who has the final say. We don't have to infuriate Long Yujun for a mere Xiao Xiao. This woman has tried to kill me more than once. How can I spare her life?" Han Fei listened on the side. It seems that Xia Xiaochan will still be ostracized in the mermaid royal family. At least, this Xiao Xiao must have taken advantage of her identity to stir up trouble. As for that Long Yujun, seeing how afraid these people were, it would be difficult for him to get along with them. However, this person dared to murder Xia Xiaochan. He had to die. At this time, Yu Xiao, who was dragged up, sneered. Xiao, your position as the princess has always been controversial. If you kill me now, you'll annoy my master and half of the mermaid royal family. Do you dare to kill me? However, when Xiao was about to speak, Han Fei stretched out his hand, and two scimitars appeared in his hand. What were they if not the blades of hope? Puff! The two scimitars slashed at Yu Xiao's soul. In a scream, Han Fei grabbed Yu Xiao's neck. What are you? Who gave you the courage to show off in front of me? Yu Xiao didn't know Han Fei. She was fearless because of her identity and the mermaid clan's attitude towards Xiao. She wanted to force Xiao not to take action. However, she had never met a person who didn't care about the consequences like Han Fei. He took action without hesitation, and his murderous intent was all over her face. Yu Xiao was shocked. Do you know who I am? Xiao, how can you tolerate this person? Ah, Han Fei's void lines were about to capture this woman. However, a mark lit up in that person's soul. Suddenly, a big shadow appeared, which seemed to be a giant beast in the sea. As soon as this person appeared, all the mermaids here showed a look of horror. Xiao's face also became much paler. Seeing this, Han Fei burst out again. With all his strength, the domineering attack that he had just resisted Yun Tianhe appeared again. However, Han Fei was not facing the figure, but Yu Xiao. No matter what, he was going to kill Yu Xiao. As the saying goes, wolves travel thousands of miles to eat meat. I'll make you feel pain even if I have to. Brat, how dare you? BM, crack around Han Fei. The six-gate array lit up, but in an instant it was broken. Han Fei blocked it with a giant shield, and the fish skin around him was spinning, forming a series of arrays. Xiao tried to resist with all her strength. However, how could Xiao resist this kind of power? Han Fei pushed Xiao away with the infinity water. The arrays around him were all shattered by this slap, and he was slapped hundreds of miles away again, blood spurting out wildly. However, at the moment when Han Fei flew out, there was a flash of blue brilliance. Han Fei reappeared unscathed and punched at this phantom again. Originally, when Yu Xiao was punched into pieces by Han Fei, this clone was furious. However, Han Fei launched such a terrifying blow again. This made the clone realize that something was wrong. The man's voice was indifferent. What a great path of time. Brat, how dare you kill my disciple? Your path has come to an end. Han Fei looked at the air disdainfully and pointed at the black shadow. If you have the ability, come to me. What the hell? How dare you be so arrogant here? What's so great about the sea expansion realm? Sooner or later, I'll tear apart your old bones and stew them. Let me show you what it means to be young and strong. By Muling City Yuhong, the mermaids and half-kings. At this moment, by Muling City Yuhong and the others were all dumbfounded. Damn it! What the hell are they seeing today? They thought that Han Fei was already strong enough. Being able to enter the Bronze Gate and fight against almost everyone from the major forces, this was no longer what a normal half-king could do. However, today, Han Fei challenged Long Yu Jun of the mermaid royal family, known as the strongest in the sea expansion realm. He was an existence who had reached the peak of the sea expansion realm, and it was said that he was about to break through to the king realm as a *king half-king. How dare you challenge the strongest king of the mermaids like this? Is it really okay? Xiao was also a little confused. She knew that Han Fei was strong, but she didn't expect Han Fei to be this strong. That was Long Yu Jun. She had seen him a few times. This person was frightening just by looking at him. She couldn't help but be a little worried when Han Fei slapped him in the face. However, as Han Fei said, Long Yu Jun was just a clone after all, and he could attack twice. However, for someone like Han Fei who had mastered the time spell, it was useless. As soon as the phantom of Long Yu Jun disappeared, they heard Master Hexagon howling. Help! Han! Black Impermanence, help! Starfish is dying, he's dying. Everyone couldn't help but prick up their ears. Han what? Han Fei waved his hand casually. A holy light technique fell on the hexagon starfish. This time, The big starfish was indeed covered in bruises. After all, it was still a peak-level intermediate venerable. How could it block a blow from the strongest king of the mermaids? If Han Fei hadn't blocked it with a lot of arrays just now, and then pushed the hexagon starfish out, it might have been slapped to death. Perhaps it would be killed by a single slap from the other party. However, Master Hexagon Starfish was brainless and almost exposed his name. Just now, he used the Tao of Time, which had already revealed his identity. With the power of these people, according to the Tao of Time, they would be able to find out his true identity soon after he went out. However, Han Fei didn't panic. With his mastery of the Tao of Time, he shouldn't have been noticed. The Time Dragon Carp also said that it didn't matter if he used it for a while. As a matter of fact, the exploration had been completed, those who should be fought had been fought, and those who should be running had run away. Now it was time to go out. Han Fei looked at Xia Xiaochan and said, "Let's go. Go out and continue to hunt. Grand Pure, Wu Ji, and the others. Let's see if we can find them." Although Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong wanted to keep Xia Xiaochan here. With Han Fei, the god of slaughter, they didn't say a word that they didn't want to fight against this guy, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to complain if they were killed. Xia Xiaochan grinned happily. "Let's go." Phew, it wasn't until the two of them left that Bai Muling, Sita Yuhong, and even a group of mermaids slowly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, this god of slaughter is finally gone. Someone couldn't help but ask, "Young Master Bai, young Master Situ, who is this guy?" Bai Muling snorted. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." The two of them thought, who should I ask? In the outside world, not long after Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan came out, Master Hexagon Starfish breathed a sigh of relief. Finally out. "Han Fei, can you heal Starfish again?" Starfish is about to make a breakthrough. Chapter 1798. It was only natural that Master Hexagon wanted to make a breakthrough. This breakthrough was mainly because of the king's blow. How could he not panic when he was almost killed? However, Han Fei said, "You can make a breakthrough, but you are not allowed to use the power of your sect. Not even a drop. That power is much more useful than you think." The Hexagon Starfish's 6 big eyes couldn't help but roll. What's the use? Seeing the Hexagon Starfish's sneaky look, Han Fei knew that this guy was up to no good, so he immediately said, "I'll tell you the specific use after you make the breakthrough." The Hexagon Starfish, Xia Xiaochan, was also full of curiosity. However, she only knew that this thing was related to the degree of spiritual energy disintegration. She would make good use of it after this matter was over. The Hexagon Starfish could make a breakthrough easily because he had too many resources in his sect. Not to mention one breakthrough. Even 10 breakthroughs wouldn't be a problem for him. Han Fei was planning to find Beitang Xian and the others after the Hexagon Starfish's breakthrough was completed. However, Han Fei subconsciously pinched his fingers and scanned with his perception. Immediately, he saw someone stealthily coming this way in an invisible state. "Huh?" Han Fei frowned slightly. "Someone is coming," Xia Xiaochan said in surprise. "Someone is coming? Is there something wrong with his head?" The power Han Fei showed was not to be underestimated. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to make the same mistake again. After all, the consequence of doing that was death. Who wouldn't be afraid? But now, there were still people coming here? Didn't these people leave as soon as they left the Seabed Sky Palace? Even if they didn't leave after coming out, they wouldn't fight with each other for the key to the Seabed Sky Palace. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan didn't move and didn't take the initiative to intercept them, because there were only 2 people coming. In Han Fei's view, they posed no threat at all. After a moment, the 2 people broke through the void and rushed directly towards Han Fei. As soon as the void was opened, Han Fei saw that 2 figures appeared in the slightly distorted void barrier. Han Fei asked, "What are you here for?" However, with 2 ka-ka sounds, the distorted space around these 2 people shattered. The next moment, Han Fei saw an acquaintance appear in front of him. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "So it's Brother Bai. This must be your senior brother, Dongfeng Ming, right?" Just now, Han Fei robbed these 2 people. However, just now, Bai Jingjiu threw 2 keys to the underground palace, and the 2 of them left. Therefore, Han Fei and Dongfang Ming only met face to face. At this moment, the two of them came again, and Han Fei knew what they were up to. Just now, when everyone was vomiting from the stench, these two were retching while collecting the stench. He was definitely here for the stench. As expected, Dongfang Ming cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist, we are from the myriad poison heaven. Fellow Taoist is a human, but you didn't kill them all, which shows that fellow Taoist isn't a bloodthirsty person. The two of us are here to ask for something from you. Han Fei said casually, guys, you have to pay a price if you want something from me. Dongfang Ming replied, understood. It's just a key to the Arch Palace. We can use all our resources to exchange for it. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other and thought to themselves, are these two crazy people playing with poison? And they were offering to exchange for it with everything they had? As a matter of fact, it was as easy as pie for Han Fei to rob the two of them at this moment, because they might possess great poisons. If the myriad poison ancestor gave them special poisons, Han Fei might not be able to resist it unless he used the time technique. Han Fei said, oh, it seems that my fragrance for 10,000 kilometers is very valuable in your eyes. Fragrance for 10,000 kilometers? Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming looked at each other and immediately thought of something. Dongfang Ming said, fellow Taoist, it's not really fragrance, but just stinky. Han Fei rolled his eyes. You don't have the slightest sense of humor. Bai Jingjiu said, fellow Taoist, now that you know why we're here, can we exchange the stinky liquid? Then, can we exchange it for the stinky liquid? Han Fei nodded with a smile. Of course we can. But the premise is that you have to come up with enough resources. You've seen the power of my fragrance for 10,000 kilometers. The Half-King Realm cultivators were all annihilated. They couldn't withstand it at all. That's its quality, and it's just a raw material. How powerful will it be if it's made into pills? I can't even imagine it. Blah. So, what are you going to give me for it? Han Fei asked the last question straightforwardly. You want to take something from me for free? That's impossible. Dongfang Ming said, we found a broken, sea-quelling bizarre treasure on this trip. I wonder if it can be used as a bargaining chip? Han Fei raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, really? I don't mind. However, Xia Xiaochan immediately said, who wants a broken sea-quelling bizarre treasure? It's just a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. I have 2 sets. What about this broken sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming were both stunned. Right, this girl was a princess of the royal family of mermaids. How could she not have a sea-quelling bizarre treasure? When the two of them were hesitating that they only had one trump card, Han Fei said, hey girl, even if it's broken, it's still a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Although its value is much lower, what if it can still be used after some repairs? Even if it can't be used, it can still be worth a few ultra-quality divine weapons. It shouldn't be a problem. Dongfang Ming hurriedly said, yes. It's definitely worth a few ultra-quality divine weapons. Han Fei grinned and said casually, how about this? Let's not talk behind the scenes. A key to the Imperial Palace can be exchanged for 0.5 kilogram of my fragrance. Are you willing to do that? 0.5 kilogram? Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming looked at each other in bewilderment. Bai Jingjiu said, fellow cultivator, isn't that too little? A key to the Imperial Palace can only be exchanged for 0.5 kilogram? Han Fei said casually, guys, you're here to do business with me. I don't want to kick you out. But don't forget that we're not businessmen. Han Fei said casually, which made Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming's heart palpitate. This man blocked the way of more than 200 people on his own. He must be very strong. If he really wanted to rob them, the two of them might not be able to resist him. Dongfang Ming frowned. But a few dozen kilograms are still not enough. Han Fei knew that the two of them probably wanted the stinky liquid to refine poison. He didn't know how to refine poison, so he could only use whatever he had. However, the two of them were experts of poison. The stinky liquid must be very useful to them. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. How about this? I've always had a good impression of the 13 heavens. I have a good impression of the 10,000 poisons heaven. I know that you're very good at refining poison. How about this? The poisons on your bodies can be exchanged with me. Each poison can be exchanged for half a kilogram of stinky liquid. However, you have to give me at least half of your keys to the Imperial Palace. Really? Han Fei was excited to see Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming. Speaking of resources, they didn't have many. However, when it came to poisons, they had everything they could think of. They were all heavenly talents of the Tao of poison. Who didn't have hundreds of poisons? Immediately, Bai Jingjiu said, "Fellow Taoist, I have 1,103 poisons. This is 1,103 kilograms." Damn it. Even though Han Fei had been as calm as an old Buddha, he couldn't help but be shocked at this moment. Why did you bring so much poison with you? Aren't you afraid of being poisoned to death? Dongfang Ming also beamed with joy. Fellow Taoist, my junior brother and I are on different paths of cultivation. The poisons in my body are also different. I have 1,607 kinds, so I have 1,607 kilograms. Xiao Xiaochan couldn't help looking at Han Fei speechlessly. Is he crazy? Since when did Han Fei have a hobby of using his hands to poison people? But it wasn't appropriate to ask now, so Xiao Xiaochan could only stare at him. Han Fei said with a smile, "That's easy. The poisons of the 10,000 poisons heaven are highly praised in the entire chaotic ocean. Using it to poison was the most suitable. However, you have to tell me what the different poisons are used for. Only then can I know how to apply the poisons." This time, Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming both smiled confidently. Of course, poisons are meant to be used anyway. Fellow Taoist, please take a look at the poisons. With a thought from them, thousands of bottles, boxes, jars, and bags appeared in midair. Then, Bai Jingjiu guarded a jade slip and said, "Fellow Taoist, you'll know after you take a look." Han Fei took it and scanned it, only to see a lot of messy records of poisons. For example, the 100-soul wither, a great poison that could corrode the body and contaminate the soul. Eventually, one soul would fall and it would be impossible for them to be reincarnated. For example, the blood thorns, a strange poison that could cause the blood in one's body to stop flowing and produce blood thorns that could shatter the veins in one's body. There are more than 1,000 different kinds of great poisons like these. Han Fei felt refreshed when he saw it. This time, he had made a fortune. He would definitely visit the 10,000 poisons heaven someday. The fragrance of 1,000 kilometers could be sold at an astronomical price. Han Fei, however, said casually, "That's 2,710 kilograms in total." Han Fei raised his hand, and a large amount of gray liquid floated in midair. Seeing this, Xiao Xiaochan jumped back a lot. Only Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming's eyes were glued to him as if he was their lover. Han Fei said unhurriedly, "Where's the key to the palace?" Chapter 1799. It was obvious that Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming didn't care much about the key. They were even more obsessed with refining poison. In the end, the two of them took out a total of 9 keys and gave them to Han Fei. Han Fei didn't say that he wanted to see her sun moon shells. In Han Fei's opinion, people from the 10,000 poison heaven were worth befriending. At the very least, it had great value. When his resistance to poison reached an extremely high level, he could research how to increase his resistance to poison to the highest level. No matter what, he had plenty of ways to find the myriad poison lotus seed and whatever 9 poisons treasured silkworm that the myriad poison ancestor mentioned. At that time, once he obtained such a supreme treasure, the 10,000 poison sky would become his storehouse of resources, and he would be able to use them at will. Han Fei said, "Okay, I don't think you have any resources left. Let's part here. If there's a chance in the future, we might have a chance to cooperate." Bai Jingjiu's eyes lit up. He shook his sun moon shell and took out a token with a spider imprint. "Fellow Taoist, if you ever come to my myriad poison sky, just come to my Spider King City's great desolate swamp and show me this token, and you'll be able to find us." Han Fei thought to himself, "Are these two people so King innocent? I was just being courteous, and you actually gave me a token? If you dare to give it to me, I have to dare to go too. Just from a name, Spider King City, Great Desolate Swamp. With this kind of name, One could tell with a single glance that it wasn't some good place. Han Fei accepted the spider token politely and thought to himself, regardless of whether it's useful or not, it doesn't take up much space anyway. In the future, I won't look for the two of you. I'll definitely go around and buy drugs. After Bai Jingjiu said goodbye to Dong Fangming, Xiao Xiaochan couldn't help but tilt her head. She looked at Han Fei strangely and asked, "Who are you trying to trick by buying so many poisons?" Han Fei curled his lips. "Can't I eat it myself?" Xiao Xiaochan was speechless. "There are thousands of poisons, and you want me to eat them? Do you think that you are a poison man?" Han Fei didn't tell Xiao Xiaochan about the heaven spirit detoxifying insect because he had forgotten about it. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "Actually, here's the thing," after a while. After Han Fei explained it to Xiao Xiaochan, she exclaimed, "Is the poison disgusting?" Han Fei shrugged. "I don't think it tastes bad, but it's definitely ugly." Xiao Xiaochan, crack. At this moment, the surging spiritual energy in the hexagon starfish finally stopped. From the looks of it, the breakthrough was successful. From then on, a high-level venerable realm starfish was born. Han Fei believed that as long as this guy was willing, he could quickly become an advanced venerable. In the future, he would have to supervise it more. Otherwise, this starfish would be wasted. At this time, the last danger zone had been explored, and everyone had nothing else to think about. Xiao Xiaochan finally asked, "What did you experience behind the bronze gate? How did you break through?" Han Fei thought to himself, "I really can't explain the Void Temple." Was he going to tell Xiao Xiaochan that he somehow became the junior brother of the Void Temple after taking a stroll in there? Then, he was inexplicably given a wine gourd by an unknown senior brother? He didn't even know how he made the breakthrough. How did his spiritual energy disassembly rate reach 100%? He still didn't know. Anyway, I just King went in and opened my eyes, and everything was done naturally. Only the heavens knew what had happened. Han Fei thought for a while and explained, "Well, after I went in, I felt as if someone was chanting scriptures in my ear. When I woke up, I had already made a breakthrough. Then, there was darkness in front of me. Then, I came out of the gate." Han Fei thought, "Let's talk about the 100% spiritual energy disassembly rate later. I haven't figured it out yet. While I figure it out first, I can tell Xiao Xiaochan about it." Xiao Xiaochan's eyes widened. "Is it that simple?" Han Fei scratched his head. "I seem to have a dream. In the dream, there were skeletons bigger than mountains and strange fish swimming in waterfalls. Oh yes, I seem to have picked up a wine bottle." Then Han Fei turned his hand and took out the green wine gourd. Han Fei thought to himself, "I guess I'll have to use this gourd in the future. After all, it's a high-quality divine weapon." Xiao Xiaochan took the green wine gourd curiously and wanted to unplug the cork and smell it. But the next moment, her face turned green. No matter how hard she tried, the wine cork didn't move at all. Xiao Xiaochan was shocked. "This is a treasure." "I know. Why is there the smell of wine in front of the bronze gate?" "Most likely, it flows from the gourd. You picked it up. Try pulling it out." Han Fei thought to himself, "I haven't pulled it out yet, but I can try." However, when Han Fei tried to pull the gourd out himself, his face changed. "CK. Can you at least give me some face? That senior brother gave you to me so that you could compete with me, right?" Han Fei found that in his current state, even if he tried his best, he couldn't even pull the cork out. However, Han Fei thought to himself, "I should be able to pull it out when I use my Tao. At that time, it will be equivalent to the power of a king. Otherwise, why would senior brother give me this when I can't even pull the cork out?" Han Fei said, "Let's wait until we go out and have enough time. Now, almost all the secret realms have been explored. I think most people should want to leave the place where the king died. Let's hurry up and see if we can catch the people of the Grand Pure and the Wuji sect." Xiao Xiaochan looked up at the sky and thought to herself, "I won't expose you. I'm afraid your pride can't take it." However, Xiao Xiaochan was also amazed. The real treasure is obviously this gourd. It doesn't matter if Han Fei got it or if I got it. Suddenly, Xiao Xiaochan was overjoyed and felt that the air was fragrant. Han Fei was puzzled. "What are you laughing at?" Xiao Xiaochan asked, "Can I laugh?" Han Fei shook his head and waited for the hexagon starfish to stabilize its cultivation. After waiting for half an hour, the hexagon starfish slowly opened its 6 big eyes and said, "Starfish, have you made a breakthrough?" Sure enough, Starfish is a genius. You made a breakthrough so easily. However, Han Fei said, "Don't be cocky. You are just an advanced venerable. Why are you so cocky? Come back quickly. We're going to set off." Han Fei took out the nautical panorama and pointed it at Beitang Xian. However, the nautical panorama didn't move. Then, Han Fei pointed at Xia Hai. This guy is also a good guy. It's not too much to kill him. However, the nautical panorama still didn't move. Xia Xiaochan couldn't help asking, "What's wrong?" Han Fei said with an ugly face, "There are still 3 days. Have these people all gone out?" Han Fei immediately said, "Not good. Girl, you and the big starfish go into the sea-quelling painting first. We won't look for anything, in case the people of the glass sky leave. I have to hurry up and arrange the follow-up itinerary." Han Fei asked them to go into the sea-quelling painting, which meant that Han Fei was ready to go out. And when he went out, Han Fei couldn't go with others. Han Fei also had the identity of Shui Zhan, which was an excellent camouflage. At this time, Xia Xiaochan immediately said, "Then don't look for trouble. It's more important to get down to business. Let's go to the glass sky first." Han Fei immediately agreed, and then the phantom of mountains and rivers appeared. In the end, Han Fei reminded the starfish, "Master Hexagon, remember, you can't use the power of Tao. Never." The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. Got it. When Xia Xiaochan and the big starfish both entered the sea-quelling painting, the nautical panorama began to turn, targeting Bingxue Chuling. At least, these people from the snow god's temple wouldn't leave. Han Fei had already told Bingxue Chuling about this. Besides, he still had a clone there. If his real body didn't go, how could his clone leave? In fact, Bingxue Chuling and the others didn't go very far, only about 2 million kilometers away. With Han Fei's hasty speed, half an hour was up. At this moment, Bingxue Chuling was standing on the deck of the big ship, obviously waiting for Han Fei. Swish, as soon as Bingxue Chuling realized that someone was coming, she saw that Han Fei was already standing beside her. Han Fei took Shui Zhan's mask and put it on his face. Then his body quickly deformed. In less than half a second, Han Fei turned into Shui Zhan again. Bingxue Chuling was slightly relieved. "You're back." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Where did the others go?" Bingxue Chuling nodded. "Most of them went to the exit. There is only one exit in the land of the King Grave. In every trial of the Fallen King land, there would be deaths in the process of exploration, and there would be deaths in the fights between the participants. And one of the most important places to fight is the exit." Han Fei said, "Then let's go. Anyway, there is nothing to explore in the land of the King Grave. It's good to go to the exit first. Otherwise, the peak-level venerables of the Snow God's Temple will be hunted." Han Fei had another idea in his mind. "I have to make my presence known as soon as possible. At that time, it would be impossible for the black and white ghosts to go out." Bingxue Chuling immediately nodded. "Okay," Han Fei said again. "I'll go to the cabin to rest for a while. I'll come out in 2 hours at most." Han Fei reminded Bingxue Chuling not to go too fast. Bingxue Chuling also had a guess. Han Fei abducted the princess of the mermaid royal family and must be hiding her in the sea-quelling painting. At this moment, he must be in seclusion because of this matter. As soon as he entered the cabin, Han Fei directly set up a seal. Next door was the place where the other 2 half-kings were resting. He'd better not let them disturb him. Swish, Han Fei directly entered Forge the Universe. 4 hours was equivalent to about 5 days in Forge the Universe. Han Fei still had too many questions. Therefore, he needed a short time to think. However, before that, he needed to deduce a technique first, which was the God-deceiving precious technique. Chapter 1800. This God-deceiving precious technique was the technique that Han Fei used to disguise himself as Shui Zhan. It was a venerable level, divine quality technique. It was exactly because of this technique that even the kings couldn't see through him. However, he had to deduce this technique now. When he came in, no one knew that there would be a person like Han Fei who killed the heavenly talents of the Grand Purity Palace and the Wuji Heavenly Palace. No one would have expected that someone could rob the venerable ones of almost all the forces on his own. However, after he went out, things were different. The power he showed in the land of the King Grave was so strong that even the kings couldn't kill him with a single blow, and he was strong enough to resist the blow of the master of the Wuji Heavenly Palace. This matter couldn't be hidden. Therefore, the kings would be suspicious when they saw that he didn't come out. Would the god-deceiving precious technique be able to hide it? He really didn't know. At the moment when Han Fei appeared and forged the universe, with a click, Gue Sanqing's body suddenly moved. Ooh, the old turtle suddenly said, Han Fei, where are we? Han Fei. Han Fei looked at the old turtle helplessly. Old Yuan, are you okay? We've been out of the Bronze Gate for a long time. The old turtle was shocked. How we been in there? Han Fei said leisurely, forget it. I was going to ask you what happened. But it turns out that you're even more confused than me. Then, Han Fei repeated what he had just said to Xia Xiaochan to the old turtle. Of course, it wasn't a problem to expose a few more words. Han Fei said, apart from that, I have a vague impression that I heard something about the Void Temple. Wow, what temple? The old turtle jumped up in shock and looked at Han Fei in shock. Han Fei was also dumbfounded. You weren't so surprised when I mentioned the Temple of Time and the Temple of Undying. Why are you so excited when I mentioned the Void Temple? The old turtle said, Are you sure it's the Void Temple? Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm not sure. It's just that these words seem to have appeared in my memory. The old turtle murmured, It has to be the Void Temple. In the era of gods, this name was a terrifying existence. To be precise, it's an ancient existence that has existed since the Great Desolate Era. Han Fei was stunned. No, wait a moment. Tell me everything you know first. He heard the old turtle say, I also know very little. I only know that the Void Temple is one of the 3 godly temples. However, it was clearly different from the other 2 sacred halls. You know, the Undying Shrine, they practically cover the entire vast ocean. Wherever there were undead, the shadow of the Undying Shrine could exist. At least, there was the faith of the Undying Shrine. As the name suggested, the Temple of Time was related to time, and time was related to the River of Time. It was said that the Almighties in the Temple of Time were people who could see through time. I've had the fortune to see them a few times. I don't want to be enemies with these people. Even if I can beat them, it's best not to fight them. As for the Void Temple, Han Fei raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with the Void Temple? Is it related to space? The old turtle sneered. It has nothing to do with space. The Void Temple is said to be the most mysterious of the 3 godly temples. No one knew where they were. No one knew who they were from the Void Temple. No one knew who they were. No one knew where they came from. In short, everyone in the Void Temple is extremely mysterious. Once in the era of gods, there was an exposed expert of the Void Temple. Do you know how strong he was? Han Fei listened to the old turtle bragging like a child listening to a story. He asked how strong was he? The old turtle said, It's not an exaggeration to say that he suppressed this place for 10,000 years. He was invincible under the gods. His gulp, Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. That was a bit of an exaggeration. That was not the Age of Doom, but the Age of Gods. The Age of Gods suppressed the world for 10,000 years? Damn it, just how strong was he exactly? Han Fei couldn't help but ask. What happened later? How was he exposed? The old turtle asked, How was he exposed? It seems that the man pissed off a god and killed the son of a god, a pair of them. Then the god was enraged. He hunted the man in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. However, that person ran very fast. Later, it is said that the god found a group of gods to help him block the man. In the end, a powerful expert of the Void Temple was attracted. The expert killed the god who hunted the man on the spot. Han Fei said in shock, Damn, is it really that shocking? He's already a god. How can he be killed? The old turtle said, This emperor is guessing that there should be a difference in strength between the gods. Otherwise, if everyone is a god and no one can kill him, what's the point? Besides, no one knows what happened in the War of Gods. However, it can prove that gods can die. Gulp. Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. So, did he join this super force by accident? The old turtle said unhurriedly, "The Void Temple is said to believe in nothingness. It is even said that they don't even know their own people. That's quite strange." The old turtle didn't understand, but Han Fei felt that he kind of understood it. He entered the Void Temple through the bronze door. After entering, he could only see a shadow, but nothing else. He could only tell that there were some obvious creatures, such as insects, fish, dragons, birds, skeletons, and so on. Eldest senior brother. He looked up, only to feel that his head was about to explode, and his eyes, nose, and mouth were bleeding. In any case, he was a member of the Void Temple, but he had never seen anyone. Wasn't that mysterious? Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. The insect said that he would find a way to enter the Void Temple in the future. God knew what he could do. He had nothing except the calabash. As it happened, the old turtle stared at Han Fei and asked, "Is this the calabash you mentioned?" The old turtle pointed at the green wine calabash next to Han Fei, and his eyes widened with curiosity. Han Fei chuckled and said, "What do you think?" But then Han Fei said, "Now is not the time to open it. I still have a lot of things to do. If I drink too much here, I'll sleep for a few years and everything will be over." Han Fei thought to himself, nothing is impossible. A random wine calabash is a high-quality divine weapon. What level is the wine in it? Han Fei sat cross-legged and immediately closed his eyes, ignoring the old turtle. The deuce. It was more important to get down to business first. As for what he wanted to study, he could study it after he was done. A moment later, information popped up in Han Fei's mind. Sky Deception Technique. High-quality sea expansion realm. Introduction. On the basis of the God Deception Technique, the aura of other people's souls can be found in facial features, voice, aura, pressure, and Tao. The Sky Deception Technique can confuse the other party's mind and deceive them. Deduced art. Unknown deduction consumption. 500 strands of chaotic gas note. The current deduction limit of the demon purification pot has been reached. If deduced again, it will involve the mysteries of heaven and earth and will damage the demon purification pot. After reading this great technique, Han Fei thought to himself, this time there should be no problem. After all, it's a great technique of the sea expansion realm, and it also increases luck, pressure, and Tao. Han Fei thought of something. I have to give Shuizhan a Tao. This Tao can't be too weak. Previously, in the Heavenly Fall Ancient Tree, he showed great power. Then, the Tao of Strength. Anyway, he couldn't expose the art of invincibility. Otherwise, he would definitely be suspected at any moment. After spending 2 days studying the Sky Deception Technique, Han Fei was sure that he could master it, and then he began to consider the problem of disassembling spiritual energy. As soon as Han Fei raised his hand, spiritual energy appeared on his fingertips without even thinking. The old turtle was stunned to see this scene. Wait, did you create spiritual energy? Han Fei was also stunned. Didn't I create it before? The old turtle said, No, I created it before, didn't I? The old turtle said, What you created before was a series of processes. Now what is this? As soon as you raise your hand, spiritual energy is created? Han Fei couldn't help touching his chin and said, What you said makes sense. Why can I create spiritual energy as soon as I raise my hand? But what's the benefit of creating spiritual energy for my fighting? Han Fei seemed to have made a judgment in his heart. With the heavenly opening Tao as the Tao, as soon as he raised his hand, a piece of holy light appeared. In this holy light, there were more than 1,000 points of spiritual energy. At this point, Han Fei found a problem. Just now, when he used the heavenly opening divine technique, he found that there was a problem with the Tao. Han Fei couldn't help asking, Old Yuan, is the Tao everywhere? The old turtle nodded. Yes. Han Fei asked, The Tao is not a specific power, right? The old turtle asked, Isn't it? This empress thinks that it should be counted. Otherwise, how can the power of the Tao appear? Han Fei closed his eyes and murmured in his heart, if we are all deceived, and there is no power of the Tao in this world at all, and what exists is only our belief in this Tao, then can the power of the Tao be born from our belief? The stronger the belief, the stronger the Tao. If this is the case, then Han Fei finally knew why there was a Taoist heart. The stronger the Taoist heart, the stronger the Tao. Because the Tao is in the heart, and the heart has the Tao. Han Fei's heart was pounding. Therefore, everyone was sitting quietly in front of the bronze gate to absorb the power of the Tao. In fact, everyone was listening to the eldest senior brother's lecture. The content of the lecture, revealed from the bronze gate, touched everyone's Tao, making the so-called power of the Tao grow in everyone's heart. Yes, that's it, yes. Chapter 1801. Han Fei suddenly understood the true meaning of the Taoist heart. This was what he hadn't understood before. Even though Han Fei had made a great wish, he didn't understand what the Taoist heart was. But now he understood it. However, this enlightenment required a premise. That was, the degree of disassembly of spiritual energy had to reach 100%. This was because with a single thought, one could create spiritual energy that belonged to one's own path, and multiply one's strength. Even if his degree of disassembly of spiritual energy had reached 99%, and he could completely construct spiritual energy, it was just disassembly and understanding of the structure of spiritual energy. However, that was not enough. The last step was, with a thought, the Taoist heart would be born. With a thought, the spiritual energy would change. This thought actually referred to his own Taoist heart. In other words, with a thought, the Taoist heart would be born. With a Taoist heart, spiritual energy would be born. Under this premise, the stronger the Taoist heart, the more powerful the power it could create. The strength of the pioneer sea state was also stronger. Therefore, although Han Fei hadn't become a king yet, he already understood the pursuit of the pioneer sea state. To strengthen his Taoist heart, study the Great Way, and make himself stronger. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the old turtle sympathetically. So what? The king had never understood the true meaning of the Taoist heart. In fact, as long as the degree of disassembly of spiritual energy didn't reach 100%, it was impossible to understand the true meaning of the Taoist heart. How could they understand this step? Han Fei couldn't help but smile. It turns out that no one in this world can disassemble spiritual energy 100%. It's just that people are eager for quick success and choose to make breakthroughs. Among these people, even after many of them reached the pioneer sea state, they still couldn't understand this truth. In other words, they thought that disassembling spiritual energy was only what the venerable realm should do. Therefore, after the pioneer sea state, they never picked it up again. Han Fei couldn't help looking at the old turtle. Old Yuan, have you continued to disassemble spiritual energy after the pioneer sea state? The old turtle said, I've tried, but I didn't succeed. At the end of the pioneer sea state, I disassembled spiritual energy to 99%. However, it didn't work. I've also communicated with the emperors. I only know that those venerable emperors can't disassemble it 100%. Besides, after the pioneer sea state, the Great Way is connected to the origin sea. The origin sea could create its own Taoist aura. Everything is going smoothly. Han Fei didn't know what to say. This was the transformation of one's thoughts. The last 1% wasn't a method of dismantling at all, but rather a method of thinking. It was related to the Tao heart. However, many people were lost, unable to understand. But did he say that venerable sovereign didn't understand? Han Fei didn't believe it. As a venerable sovereign, how could he not understand this? He had merely listened to a lecture, and the eldest senior brother had solved his problem. It was simply too amazing. Seeing Han Fei's expression, the old turtle couldn't help but say, Don't think I didn't work hard. If it was only this emperor, then so be it. However, none of the emperors could do it. You can't blame me for that. Han Fei slightly shook his head. Okay. At this time, Han Fei had deduced the heaven-deceiving technique, and his combat power had soared. He was in good mood. Only then did Han Fei briefly check the gains of this trip. Among them, there were 461 keys to the Imperial Palace alone. If this number were to be made known, these people would probably jump in fright. And among these keys, in addition to the garbage of the Imperial Palace, there were also a few useful things. One was 13 black yellow stones, one was a blue gold key, and one was a piece of green bamboo. This key was the first real key that Han Fei had seen. Han Fei thought it might be of great use. As for the green bamboo, the demon purification pot couldn't see it, so he didn't know what it was. But in terms of quality, it was definitely extraordinary. Therefore, it was listed as a treasure by Han Fei. The others were all bottles, broken stones, broken jade, swords, weapons, and so on. They were just contaminated with the luck of the Imperial Palace, so they could barely serve as the so-called keys. Of course, there were more than 400 keys anyway. It was important to note that the Snow Ladies had only asked him for 20 keys on this trip to the Fallen King realm. It could be seen that these things were not easy to find. In the next 2 days, Han Fei adapted to his power again and felt the feeling of fighting with the power he created. Only then did he leave Forge the Universe contentedly. During the period, the old turtle asked Han Fei about his spiritual energy disassembly rate. What was Han Fei's spiritual energy disassembly rate? And Han Fei's secret almost made the old turtle pass out in anger. Outside, it had been less than 2 hours since Han Fei went to the cabin for temporary seclusion. When Han Fei came out, Bingxue Chuling was still on the way to the exit. She didn't move fast or even very slowly. Seeing Han Fei coming out, Bingxue Chuling couldn't help but be a little surprised. She said, "I feel that Celestial Master seems to be a little different." Oh, Han Fei sensed it himself. Maybe it was because he had changed his Tao and wholeheartedly pretended to be Snow Battle. Han Fei said, "Let's go. It's time to show our faces." Hum, hum, hum. The big ship teleported several times and soon came within 200,000 kilometers of the exit. As soon as the big ship arrived, it felt bursts of madness. The impact of power was clearly caused by other people's battles. When Han Fei scanned, he found that there were hundreds of battles at the same time. Near the exit, there was a chaotic battle. All of the major forces were stationed here to oversee the battle. However, looking at the battlefield carefully, he found that there was a sense of propriety in this chaotic battle. Most of the battles were between humans and sea demons, mermaids, and undersea humans. At this moment, the 36 profound heavens of human beings began to be more united. The mermaids, the demons, and the undersea humans also began to stand on the same side. No matter how the major forces fought against each other during the exploration of the land of the King Grave. However, in the end, they still had to be united. Otherwise, they would really fight to the death. For example, some heavenly talents were fighting fiercely with the strong mermaids. Some peak-level venerables were fighting with the demons and undersea humans, shouting at each other. Han Fei's perception swept over and could see that there were less than 1,000 people here, only 700 or 800. He wondered if they hadn't all arrived yet. At this moment, the peak-level venerables of the Snow God's Temple were mingling with the people of the Windcutter Heavenly Sect and the Thunderfire Heavenly Sect, shouting at the undersea humans. When Han Fei's big ship gradually approached, it appeared in everyone's perception. A heavenly talent of the Windcutter Heavenly Sect shouted, "Holy Lady, Lord Saint, come and help." Thunderfire Sky Shattering Strike, an expert of the Thunderfire Heavenly Sect, stood proudly in the void with a thunderhammer in his hand. Wind and thunder gathered and smashed out thousands of lightning arcs, fighting a giant lobster fiercely. An expert of the Windcutter Heavenly Sect, like a phantom, flashed in the void and attacked a super big eel. Han Fei said, "Let's do it. We still have to fight." Bingxue Chuling was slightly relieved. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and flew straight into the void. She shouted, "Is everyone from the Snow God's Temple safe?" As Bingxue Chuling approached, the peak-level venerables of the Snow God's Temple were all shocked. Someone responded, "Holy Lady, 14 people have returned." There are still 6 people who haven't returned. Bing Xue Qiliang was slightly relieved. At least, these 14 people were safe. Including herself, Chu Yang, Qin Yu, and Han Fei, there were 18 people. This time, a total of 24 people from the Snow God's temple came. It would be acceptable if only 6 people hadn't returned. As soon as Bing Xue Qiliang arrived, she saw an expert of the Seabed clan shouting, "Holy Lady of the Snow God's temple. It is said that she has just made a breakthrough. Come on, let me fight you." Behind Han Fei, Chu Yang and Qin Yu had also arrived on the deck. After seeing the situation, the two of them became serious. Chu Yang said, "That man is Iron Claw, the 8-clawed old thief of the Seabed clan. We can't let the Holy Lady take the risk alone. I'll go and help her." Qin Yu added, "The Windcutter Heavenly Sect seems to be struggling. I'll go and help him." The two of them glanced at Han Fei and thought to themselves, this guy may have his own plans. Their status was not as high as Han Fei's, so they better not interfere. Han Fei, on the other hand, was looking at the crowd, hoping to take this opportunity to hook up with someone from the Glass Heaven. At this moment, the only fierce battles were between Mu Shui Cece of the Taishan Heaven and a girl from the Glass Heaven. The opponent of the two girls was a rather powerful demi-king of the Seabed clan. At this moment, Mu Shui Cece shouted, "Mu Shi, attack his soul with the 3-foot glass divine sword." The woman called Mu Shi's figure flashed. The void bloomed, and the glass light shone. As she opened her eyes, a colorful light sword went straight to the forehead of the demi-king of the Seabed clan. Wandering God Scorpion stab. A giant scorpion turned over and stabbed fiercely with a green light, piercing the small glass sword in the air. Mu Shui Cece shouted again, "Cece, retreat 3,000 feet. Lightstream shield, block the nebula arrow." Mu Shui Cece stepped on the strange formation, and with a whoosh, she appeared 3,000 feet away. She shouted, "Taishan Waterbind, Ice Dragon Peak." A watercolored cage appeared 10,000 feet high in the sky. The head of the ice blue dragon soared straight into the sky. On the other side, Mushi held the light shield and looked at the flowing light falling from the sky. Ripples appeared on her shield, and she spun it at the flowing light. An arrow of light split into 3,000 and shot straight at the Seabed clan expert. In fact, this was just a battlefield. Every battlefield was as exciting as this one. With this level of strength, who wouldn't be flashy when fighting? Huge waves surged, and the sea didn't calm down for a long time. Roar, scorpion tail hook, eye of freezing. The human expert from the bottom of the sea was standing on an ice dragon. His eyes were red as he locked onto Mu Shi. A ray of blue light, like a hook, instantly shot out. Apparently, he was going to trade injury for injury. However, Mu Shui Cece's expression changed drastically. She shouted, "Cece, water glass divine body, quick!" However, Mushi was still half a beat slower. In that moment, Mushi was dumbfounded. However, the damage to her divine soul didn't happen. When Mushi opened her eyes, she saw a man in a snow-white cloak standing in front of her. This person stepped on the void, traveling 1,000 miles with a single step. In an instant, he arrived before the human at the bottom of the sea. Mu Shui Cece was the first to react. Although she was surprised that Shuizhan would help her, she still reminded him, "Be careful of the blue lightning scorpion venom. This venom is extremely fast. Sword come." In the eyes of the two women, Han Fei stood still in the void. His 2 fingers were like swords as he pointed at the void. The sea behind him turned into a sword, and the ocean sky, sword, slashed out, causing spatial cracks to distort as it charged forward. Swish, 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 roar, Han Fei secretly roared. How could a human powerhouse from the bottom of the sea be a match for Han Fei? Being roared by the 100 Beast Soul Eater, his mind went blank. It was at this moment that the sound of piu 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 rang out continuously. This person was instantly torn to pieces. Wow, so strong. Mu Shui Cece and Mu, she looked at each other in bewilderment. This person didn't go very far in front of the bronze gate. Why is he so strong? Han Fei grabbed the man's divine soul with the void lines. Then he turned around and glanced at Mu Shi indifferently. He raised his hand and pinched an invisible needle between his fingers. If I hadn't come just now, you would have died. Chapter 1802. His soul-destroying needle? Mu Shi's face turned pale, and she was a little scared. Mu Shui's Cece's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but say angrily, "These seabed humans are so vicious. They even used soul-destroying needles. How shameless." However, Han Fei said, "The winner takes all. How can you say that they are shameless?" Mu Shui's Cece curled her lips slightly, but Mu Shi hurriedly bowed. "Thank you for saving my life, fellow cultivator Shuizhan. I will never forget it." Han Fei threw the soul-destroying needle at her and said lightly, "Be careful next time." After that, Han Fei floated away without looking back. With a step, he crossed thousands of kilometers and disappeared from their sight. Mu Shi was still holding the soul-destroying needle in a daze when Mu Shui's Cece said, "Okay, stop looking. She's already gone. So, even your soul has been taken away?" Mu Shi blushed and said coquettishly, "Cece, what nonsense are you talking about?" At this time, Mu Shui's Cece glanced at the sun-moon shell that the seabed human expert dropped and immediately grabbed it. Mu Shi exclaimed, "Cece, did he forget to take the sun-moon shell with him?" Mu Shui's Cece was speechless. "What do you mean by forget? He didn't take it at all. Seeing that you've fought hard for a long time, he specially left it for you." Mu Shi blushed again. "Well, I don't think so. I'd better give it back to him." Mu Shui's Cece nodded. "Yes, he should. He killed this man and saved your life. This sun-moon shell should belong to him. Okay, the battle here is urgent. Let's wait until the battle is over and then return it to him. Well, you can go to the snow god's temple then. If you can ask your master to go with you, maybe you can even get married." "Ah, Cece, I'm going to tear your mouth apart." On Han Fei's side, the old turtle said, "Are you sure? Are you sure that she will return the sun-moon shell to you?" "I'm not sure. However, the education level of the Tai Xian and Lily Immortal Palaces is not bad. These people are kind, and I saved her life. Logically speaking, even if it was to make the great Tao unobstructed, she would return the sun-moon shell." The old turtle said slowly, "But where did the soul-extinguishing needles come from? I didn't see anything." Han Fei grinned. "I found it in someone else's sun-moon shell. In any case, the battle just now was so intense that they could only attribute it to their own carelessness and not suspect that I was the one who took out the soul-extinguishing needles." Han Fei searched with his senses, looking around, and finally found Xinyu in a corner near the battlefield of 100 Flower Palace and Clear Sky. Back at the blood pool, this fellow had escaped. Who would have thought that this guy was still here? He was still hunting here. Han Fei grinned. "Since you don't want to leave, don't blame me." Buzz, Han Fei directly used the Gemini divine technique. His white mist body returned, and his black mist body went to the battlefield over there. In this chaotic battle, it was impossible for these people to discover Han Fei's black fog body. Therefore, Han Fei approached it blatantly. In just over 20 minutes, when the black mist body drifted and attached to Xinyu's body, this guy didn't even notice it at all. And the powerhouses of the 100 Flower Palace, of course, were good at using demonic plants to fight. Their manipulation skills were very extraordinary. This area had been covered by demonic plants. However, Xinyu was not a simple person either. Not many people could escape from Han Fei's hands. Even if Han Fei couldn't exert more power because of the restrictions, if it were someone else, he wouldn't be able to escape either. At this moment, a man and a woman from the 100 Flower Palace, one setting up a spiritual plant trap array, and the other summoning thorns and vines. When the three parties attacked each other, it was like a terrifying sea beast that was released from the sea, extremely ferocious. However, although the offensive of the 100 Flower Palace was strong, if one looked closely, they would find that in the massive demonic plant jungle, there were blood-colored centipedes crawling everywhere. Large tracts of demonic plants were riddled with holes by the centipedes. The other people of the 100 Flower Palace were restrained by other people of the seabed. At this moment, Xinyu smiled coldly and said, "You two, as long as you hand over the resources in your hands, we won't have to fight like this. You humans haven't all arrived yet. Now, the 100-Flower Palace is even more short of manpower. If you neglect it, I'm afraid you'll be killed." The woman from the 100-Flower Palace shouted, "Xinyu, we know you're strong. But you must have been seriously injured before, right? Aren't you afraid that the black and white ghosts will come again? I don't believe you have a second chance to escape." "Ha ha!" Xinyu laughed loudly. "The woman in the black and white ghosts is the princess of the mermaid royal family. That man is obviously an expert of your human race. If they dare to show up at the entrance, do you think they can escape if a king intervenes?" The land of the last king was not only accessible to venerables, but also kings. If people knew that Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei were together, both of them will be hated by both sides. At that time, it was entirely possible that a king would break the rules and enter this place. However, just as Xinyu finished this sentence, suddenly a black mist enveloped him. The next moment, a sarcastic voice appeared in Xinyu's mind. "Do you think you can scare me with a king? Ghosts take your soul, and ghosts take your life. Today, no one will be able to save you no matter who comes." "Who is it?" Xinyu suddenly turned pale with fright. "How is it possible? He's here? Where is he?" But the next moment, Xinyu felt that his body was being cut, as if thousands of ants were eating his heart. For the first time, he even felt that his divine soul had been broken through. There was an inexplicable force that was locking his soul, and then he couldn't move. Han Fei said leisurely, "No one has ever dared to appear in front of me after tricking me. You're the first. I can't make an exception. So you shall perish." BM, a shocking aura burst out from the black mist all of a sudden. The woman from the 100-Flower Palace was directly shaken back 100 kilometers. The surrounding demon plants and vines were instantly crushed to the ground. At this moment, the two of them were dumbfounded. The woman asked, "Where is Xinyu?" The man replied, "I don't know. What's that black mist? It looks like demonic power. Is this guy possessed? Did he blow himself up?" The woman was speechless. No. He was slaughtered. His sun moon shell is gone." Hiss. In an instant, the two hurriedly retreated. This top-notch powerhouse was killed in front of them. It was silent. They didn't even see the shadow of the attacker. It could be seen how terrifying the opponent's strength was. At this time, not far away, on the clear sky side, a heavenly talent looked over in shock. "Feng Shi, Huaying, you two actually killed Xinyu? Wow. After we go out, I'm afraid the limelight will surpass the heavenly talents of the inner domain." Huaying said with a black face, "Shut up. Wu Liuqi, don't tell anyone about this." The young man called Wu Liuqi grinned and said, "What a great thing. Okay, I won't say it, but it's useless even if I don't say it. There will be bystanders who will see the chaotic battle here." Feng Shi sighed leisurely. "Huaying, we can't agree to this. After we go out, we must refute the rumor. Otherwise, our strength and reputation will not match, and the consequences will be very serious." Huang nodded heavily. "Yes, it can't be the two of us who can easily kill Xinyu." Han Fei didn't care what the two people from the 100-Flowers Palace thought. He had already merged with the two. At this moment, Han Fei was helping a disciple of the Snow God's palace. At this moment, he killed a peak-level venerable. "Thank you for your help, Lord Holy Child." Han Fei nodded. "Okay, it's okay. This kind of fighting and looting didn't happen all the time." The people of the Snow God's palace didn't take the initiative to attack, nor were they afraid of fighting. Two half-king powerhouses of the 100 Demons clan wanted to test the strength of the Snow God's palace. As a result, Han Fei killed one, and Bingxue Chuling seriously injured the other. Immediately, no one came over. Han Fei and the others also got some free time. Outside the king grave, the kings didn't look good, especially the Grand Purity Palace, the Wuji Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. At this moment, on the big ship of the Wuji Heaven, Beitang Xian was seriously injured and sleeping. After more than 3 hours, he finally woke up. When he woke up, he saw the figure in front of him and hurriedly said, "Uncle, I'm out." This person was the leader of the team of the Wuji Heaven, Beitang Xian's uncle, Beitang Xian. Beitang Xian said, "Thank you. Save your life with the last bit of my power. Otherwise, your life will be forfeit." Xiahai from the Golden Crow Heaven has already told us the details. The human heavenly talents teamed up with the princess of the mermaid royal family to hunt the Grand Purity Palace, the Wuji Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. So far, our 3 palaces have suffered heavy losses. Beidang Xian breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Uncle, it's not that I didn't work hard. That person is extremely strong. He was able to resist a blow from the palace master without dying. I even suspected that his strength has reached the pioneer sea state." Beitang Xianbing said lightly, "We already know this. However, due to the restraint of the kings of the major forces, we can't go in. Now, we can only wait. There are only so many human experts in total. If we look at them one by one, we can see the problem." Beidang Xianbing didn't dwell on this issue but said, "Tell me about the Bronze Gate." Chapter 1803. 3 days later, only one of the remaining 6 people from the Snow God's palace came. This meant that the remaining 5 people had already died in the land of King Grave. Han Fei knew that the ratio was not bad. The probability of dying was about 20%, so he didn't feel sorry for the Snow God's palace. By now, the war had basically been settled. They couldn't fight all the time. Those who had gone out had already left. At least, the experts at the peak level of the Venerable Realm had all left, including those from the Snow God's palace. Only 4 demi-kings were left. In the last 2 hours, when the major forces were about to leave, there was a slight commotion. For example, the peak-level Venerable of the Grand Purity Palace found that Ji Chun didn't come out. They couldn't believe it. How could Ji Chun have died in the land of King Grave? For example, Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong were still waiting for Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei. However, they couldn't wait. For example, the people from the Avalon of 5 Elements were also shocked. Where was Chun Hao of the 5 Elements? However, most of the people chose to travel together. The Demi-King Heavenly Talents of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect and the Thunder Fire Heavenly Sect gathered. These 3 sects were close to the Divine Palace, so they had a good relationship. The Heavenly Talents knew each other too. Li Xuanfeng of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect said, "You two, let's go together." It seems that the exploration of the Snow God's Palace is going well this time. It seems that not many people died. Bing Xue, Chuling nodded. Maybe they were just lucky. Outside, swish, when people came out of the exit of the land of King Grave, the king's perception swept over. The sea surged, and an invisible pressure enveloped the sea. Han Fei, Bing Xue Chuling, and the others went straight to the Snow God as soon as they left the land of King Grave. Han Fei sensed that several kings' perceptions swept over him. However, he wasn't afraid at all, nor did he panic at all. On the Snow God, the Snow Lady stood on the deck. At the stern were the disciples of the Snow God's palace. The Snow Lady glanced at them casually. "You two, follow me." No one would doubt that. After all, they were going to find the key. After returning, the key was immediately handed over to the palace master for safekeeping. This was a matter of course. Naturally, it would not be appropriate to directly hand it over on the deck. The 2 of them followed the Snow Lady into the cabin. The Snow Lady said, "Long story short, you caused a huge commotion at the King-perished land. It's fine if it's just causing trouble, but the problem is, what's going on between you and the princess of the Merfolk royal family?" Han Fei said casually, "My woman." The Snow Maiden was speechless. How many days had it been? You managed to woo the princess of the Merfolk royal family? However, the 2 women immediately realized that it shouldn't be so simple, especially Bing Xue Chuling. She guessed that Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan knew each other from the beginning. Where did they meet? That was something worth pondering. Of course, the Snow Lady was only greeting him. She said, "Has she returned to the mermaid royal family?" Han Fei shook his head. "She's with me." The Snow Lady was momentarily dazed. "You really dared to kidnap me?" However, at this time, Xia Xiaochan couldn't go back even if she wanted to. Otherwise, what would happen to the Snow God's palace? The Snow Lady said, "I didn't see through your disguise. However, when a mermaid royal family finds that the princess is gone, they will know that a human colluded with the mermaid princess and will definitely suspect you. There are only these people, and they wouldn't leave until they got to the bottom of this matter. So, you have to pay attention to two people. One is Yi Qinglong of the Mermaid Clan, and the other is Ji Xian of the Grand Purity Palace. As the kings of this place, their strength should not be underestimated. As long as they don't see through your disguise, you will succeed. Han Fei said casually, I'm already prepared. I will leave a half-king projection clone on the snow god to prevent them from patrolling halfway. The snow lady said, how can you leave in front of so many people? In fact, you should fake an accident and make people think that you have died. In this way, no one will doubt you. Han Fei smiled. I don't think it's that troublesome. As long as they can't find you, can they stop the major forces from leaving? The snow lady said, that won't happen. However, it's necessary to check everyone. After all, not only is the princess of the mermaid royal family gone, but human beings are also considered to have traitors. Han Fei nodded, knowing that it was troublesome. Han Fei took out 30 keys to the underground palace and said, here are the extra 10 as thanks for your help. The snow lady accepted the keys without batting an eyelid. In fact, since she knew that Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan pretended to be the black and white ghosts, she must know that Han Fei had more than 30 keys to the Imperial Palace. Han Fei probably had more than 200 keys to the Imperial Palace, or even more. But so what? Han Fei had the keys to the Imperial Palace, which meant that there should be a force behind Han Fei. If this force also went to the Imperial Palace in the future, they might form an alliance because of Han Fei. A moment later, the snow lady took the two of them out of the cabin and appeared on the deck again. Idiots, two idiots! Suddenly a voice burst out. Many people looked over, only to see the myriad poison ancestor pointing at by Jingjiu and Dongfangming. He was almost pointing his finger at their noses. The myriad poison ancestor snorted. You exchanged such an ultimate treasure for a mere 1,000 kilograms? Are you brainless? You should have brought all of the poison. Don't you know how to put on credit? Did you invite him to the myriad poison heaven for a secret deal? Do you think I'll be short of resources if I invite him to the myriad poison heaven? You two idiots, go back and cultivate in seclusion for 10 years. Yes, Master. You're right. Master, Jingjiu knows he's wrong. Seeing the myriad poison ancestor suddenly fly into a rage, Lei Qin couldn't help but say, Old Poison Huang, it's already good enough that your disciple came out safely. You scolded him as soon as you came out. Are you afraid that others won't know after such a great disturbance? The myriad poison ancestor snorted. Those two wastrels encountered countless ultimate treasures and poisons in the land of King Burial, but they only brought back 1,000 kilograms. Don't you think I'm mad? I really want to slap them to death. As he spoke, the myriad poison ancestor glanced around. He even glanced past Han Fei. Although it was just a glance, Han Fei knew that the old man was looking at him. He just didn't want others to know, so he deliberately glanced around. Han Fei thought, oh no, I've been exposed. I'm not very familiar with Huang Jie, although I told by Jingjiu that I exchanged poison for poison to poison others. But who is Huang Jie? He's cunning. Before entering the land of King Burial, Han Fei even went to Huang Jie's cabin in person and asked for some poison. Han Fei's heart tightened. Yes, I was too eager. I shouldn't have exchanged poison with Bai Jingjiu and Dongfangming. I should have paid a visit to the myriad poison heaven when I was free. Just now, Huang Jie was ostensibly reprimanding his disciple loudly. He didn't seem to care who the black and white ghosts were, but he was actually sending a message to Han Fei. The kings were all speechless. So many people had died, but in this guy's eyes, only poison mattered. Huang Jie snorted. I don't know which brat it is. If I find him, I'll drain him dry. Han Fei was speechless. It seemed that there was one more person to deal with. The snow lady didn't look at Han Fei. She was only slightly surprised. Huang Jie didn't even bother to send a voice transmission. His public scolding was obviously meant for someone. Who else could it be except Han Fei? But strangely enough, Huang Jie didn't mention the name and even helped to keep the news a secret. It seemed that this person was up to something against Han Fei. 2 hours passed. There wasn't much time left before the exit was closed. However, some people in the land of King Burial hadn't come out. For example, Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei, the black and white ghosts, Ji Chun, the heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace, and Chun Hao, the Five Elements sect. Seeing this scene, Yi Qinglong immediately said, Ji Xian, let's search the land of King Burial. Ji Chen nodded and then shouted, the rest of you, wait here. I'll be back soon. The two kings disappeared from the ship. After half an hour, when the two appeared again, they looked extremely awful. Ji Xian shouted, all the kings of the 36 mysterious heavens, please gather all the participants of this trial on the deck. I think you already know what happened. There is a traitor among the humans who colluded with the princess of the merfolk royal family and killed a lot of human experts. Yi Qinglong snorted and said, it's said that that person has a deep grudge against the Grand Pure Palace and the Wuji Palace. Who can you blame? But how dare this person take away the princess of the merfolk royal family? If we don't find him today, this matter won't be settled so easily. The myriad poison ancestor sneered. The land of King Burial is so large. Do you two have the ability to search it in half an hour? If he really wants to hide, I'm afraid you won't be able to find him. Yi Qinglong said coldly. We'll see if we can find him or not. You don't need to say anything. Yi Qinglong, be more polite with your words. At that moment, Huang Jie spoke aggressively. He seemed extremely powerful. But then, Huang Jie withdrew his aura and said grumpily, get out here. I want to see if you've changed your skin. Huang Jie interfered just to let Yi Qinglong and Ji Chun know that they shouldn't go too far. Do they really want to fight? He, the myriad poison ancestor, was the first one who was not afraid. Chapter 1804. Xia Xiaochan's identity was certainly important. Yi Qinglong took a trip to the place where the king perished and Xia Xiaochan disappeared. He wouldn't be able to explain it to Chun Huangdian after he returned. Ji Xian, on the other hand, had a bad feeling. This time, the number of experts who died wasn't much different from that of previous years. But in any case, Ji Chen couldn't have died. Even Limitless Heaven's Beitang Xian, who was personally attacked by Yun Tianhe, had almost died. Obviously, there was something wrong with this. From any perspective, someone who almost killed Beitang Xian couldn't be a half-king. They couldn't find anything wrong with the name of the black and white ghosts. However, it was big news that this person walked the invincible path. Therefore, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong planned to find out who this person was by checking their Dao. In this way, if Han Fei simply disguised himself with a spell, they might be able to find some clues. This way of finding people wasn't slow. Although they didn't want to show their power of Dao, it wasn't their own Dao, so they didn't mind being seen. Seeing and cultivating were two different things, so they didn't really care. He saw Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong searching from one house to another. The first place they went to was the Supreme Purity Palace, mainly to prove their innocence. The Glaze Heaven and the Taishian Heaven, Mui Shui Sisi said, can the strong do whatever they want and check other people's Dao? On the ship, a middle-aged man glanced at Mui Shui Sisi, and the latter immediately shut up. The man said, don't meddle in the king's business. Half an hour later, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong came to the ship of the Snow God's temple. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were already standing there. Han Fei was wearing a mask, but it didn't mean that the strong couldn't see him. However, after wearing the mask, Han Fei indicated that he didn't want others to see him, and generally, no one would take the initiative to see him. This behavior was extremely impolite. It represented a provocation and made enemies for himself. On the Snow God's Temple's side, Han Fei was the only one wearing a mask, which attracted the attention of Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian. Of course, they didn't force Han Fei to see his mask in front of the Snow Lady. Ji Xian said, fellow Snow Lady, can you allow your disciple to take off his mask? Every time Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian checked a ship, everyone's eyes would be drawn to it. At this moment, when Ji Xian asked Han Fei to take off his mask, many people were curious about Shui Zhan's mask for a long time. Mui Shui Sisi even transmitted her voice to Mu Shi in the glazed sky. Sisi, look, he's going to take off his mask. After that, you can propose in peace. The glazed sky's king glanced at Mu Shui Sisi. Then, He looked at Mushi and couldn't help but ask, "What happened?" Mushue Cece stuck out her tongue and thought to herself, "I didn't mean it." Mushi's face immediately turned red, and she quickly said, "Teacher, it's not what you think, it's just Cece teasing me. It's just that fellow Taoist Shui Zhan saved my life." "Oh, save your life. I do have to thank him." Mushi, at this moment, the Snow Lady glanced at Han Fei and said lightly, "Shui Zhan." Han Fei said lightly, "Seniors, please forgive me." Shui Zhan covered my face because I didn't want my appearance to affect my belief. After that, Han Fei grabbed the mask with one hand and slowly took it off. Immediately afterward, what was revealed was an almost perfect handsome face, fair and tender, but not feminine at all. His eyes were calm and resolute, and his angular facial features were like a gift from heaven. There was unparalleled arrogance between his eyebrows, and the corners of his lips were slightly thin with a natural upward curve. While on the Taishan heaven side, Mushue Cece exclaimed, "Isn't he too handsome? Cece, you're so lucky." Clatter, the king of the Taishan heaven, was quite embarrassed. He stopped Mushue Cece in disgust, and then slightly cupped his hands to the people around him. Excuse me. And the Moon King of the glazed sky couldn't help but be taken aback. "Oh, I see. Mushi, do you like him? If you do, we can indeed propose a marriage." Mushi was greatly embarrassed. Although she was also dumbfounded, she quickly stamped her feet and waved her hand. "Master, it's not like that. I haven't even talked to him." The Moon King smiled slightly. "So what? Cultivators like me have a firm belief. It's not easy to meet someone I like. Especially in the glazed sky, there are very few men. Someone has to carry on the family line. Okay, I'll ask the Snow Girls about this later." Mushi. Of course, Han Fei didn't use his own face. Who else could this face belong to but Zhang Xuanyu's? Only Zhang Xuanyu's face could be perfectly controlled by Han Fei, because he was too familiar with this guy. At this moment, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong also vaguely understood why Han Fei was so secretive. Of course, although he was a bit handsome, there was no need to hide it. It could only be said that Shui Zhan's belief was not firm enough. Ji Xian said, "Little friend Shui Zhan, please show me your Tao." Han Fei nodded slightly, only to feel that the Tao around him suddenly changed. Blood surged all over his body, and a powerful force inexplicably emerged. Han Fei said, "My Tao can multiply my strength." Huh? Not just Ji Xian, but even Yi Qinglong couldn't help but be surprised. A Tao that could directly increase his combat power. This guy was born for battle, and he had already reached the level of Demi-King. If his strength doubled, he would probably be on par with Ji Chun and Beidang Xian. He might even be a little stronger. Of course, although the two of them were surprised by Han Fei's talent, it was still far from being able to defeat Yin Tianhe, as described by Beidang Xian. In their opinion, Han Fei's talent was probably similar to that of Li Kaitian and Wu Hao. He was a top heavenly talent, but he couldn't kill Beidang Xian and Ji Chun, nor could he pass through the pressure of the Bronze Gate. Because it was impossible. The two of them looked at him again and confirmed that there was no problem. After all, no one could walk on different Taos. The two of them nodded slightly and continued to check the others. In just a few minutes, the Snow God's Temple had found out who Han Fei was. On the Snow God's Temple's side, only the Snow Lady and Bingxue Chuling knew Han Fei's identity. As long as the two of them kept their distance, there wouldn't be a problem. When Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian had just left, with a schwa sound, two beautiful women appeared outside the heavenly snow ship. The Snow Lady was slightly surprised and then nodded. "What brings you here, Moon Monarch?" The Moon Monarch's real name was Qiu Yueming. In the glass sky, he was only second to the glass sky itself. Yes, the name of the master of the divine palace in the glass sky was Glass. Qiu Yueming said, "I'm here mainly to thank Shui Zhan for saving my disciple Mushi." The Snow Lady couldn't help but glance at Han Fei, thinking, if you're just here to thank him, why did you come here with your disciple? It's obvious that you're interested in Han Fei. The Snow Lady smiled. "Moon Monarch, please board the ship." Next to Qiu Yueming, Mushi didn't dare to raise her face much and blushed like a quail. Many people from the snow god's palace realized what was going on and were full of curiosity. The snow lady said, "Everyone go back to the cabin. Shuizhan and Chu Ling stay." Qiu Yueming's heart did a flip. The snow lady asked everyone to go back. It was fine to keep Shuizhan, but why did she keep Shuizhan and Chu Ling? It seemed that the snow lady wanted to marry Shuizhan and Chu Ling to Shuizhan. So, she told the moon monarch. However, who was Qiu Yueming? The glass sky was one of the super forces in the inner territory, much higher than the snow god's palace. If Mu Shi and Shuizhan were together, the snow god's palace would be protected by the glass sky. She didn't believe that the snow lady wouldn't want such a relationship. Qiu Yueming, however, didn't seem to understand what the snow lady meant. She smiled and said, "Cici, why don't you give it back to him?" Mu Shi trembled and hurried to take out the sun moon shell that she had prepared. She lowered her head and trotted to Han Fei, handing the sun moon shell to him. "Thank you again, fellow cultivator Shuizhan, for saving my life." This sun moon shell was lost on the battlefield. When Qiu Yueming and the snow lady looked at Han Fei, they didn't notice that Han Fei's shadow overlapped with Mu Shi's. At that moment, a pure black shadow appeared under Han Fei's feet and quietly touched Mu Shi's body. Han Fei's face was indifferent, and there was no emotion in his eyes. Seeing this scene, Qiu Yueming was a little worried. Is this guy so cold that he doesn't even like my disciple? Han Fei took the sun moon shell and said casually, "Actually, it's not necessary." At this moment, Mu Shi's heart was racing. She thought to herself, "I can't be too embarrassed now that I'm here." She said, "Fellow cultivator Shuizhan, it's yours. You killed him, and you saved me. If I don't accept this sun moon shell, I'll have a mental barrier." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Then I'll accept it." Qiu Yueming was immediately relieved. She said, "Sister Snow Lady, it's a great story that you saved the damsel in distress. You know, the women of the glass sky always have high standards. There are very few men in the world who can catch my eye. My disciple is even more so. I'm so worried. Now I see that Shuizhan is a handsome man. Why don't we make it a great story?" The snow lady was about to refuse when Han Fei slowly put the mask back on his face. There was no emotion in Han Fei's eyes. He said, "Once I put on the mask, I don't like anyone." After a while, the snow lady, Qiu Yueming, Bing Shua Chilling wanted to see how Han Fei would refuse. However, he said, "Once I put on the mask, I don't like anyone. Can you please give me some face? After all, the one talking to you is a king." Mu Shi's face suddenly turned pale. She had never experienced this before. This is worse than the good guy card. The good guy card will even say that you are a good person. Mu Shi was stunned for a while. As a half-king, she quickly adjusted her state. "Fellow cultivator Shuizhan, you misunderstood me. Don't think too much about it. Master, let's go back." Qiu Yueming looked at the snow lady and then at Shuizhan. She had heard that the snow lady loved her disciple very much. It seemed that it was true. This Shuizhan didn't even have the slightest tact. "Brat, don't let me see you again, or I'll chop you into pieces." The third chapter. Please vote for me into this chapter. Chapter 1805. Mu Shi fled back to the glass sky's ship. Lu Ran had been staring at this side. What was going on? Why was my sister bullied? Immediately, Lu Ran went to the cabin to comfort Mu Shi. When Mu Shi entered the cabin, she saw that Mu Shi's eyes were red and she was stomping on the big ship. Hey. If you stomp again, the ship will sink. Don't you know how strong your feet are?" Lu Ran was speechless. "No, I didn't see you talk much." Did Shuizhan say more than 3 sentences from beginning to end? Even if he refused, we shouldn't be so angry, right? At this moment, Han Fei was still clinging to Mu Shi, thinking Lu Ran is right. What's the big deal? You're already a half-king powerhouse. Why are you still acting like a 15 or 16-year-old girl? Mu Shi said angrily. He didn't agree. Couldn't he have been more tactful? He said that once he put on a mask, he wouldn't love anyone. What does he mean? Huh? Lu Ran was stunned. Is this Shuizhan so stupid? Mu Shi hugged Lu Ran angrily and shook her. He is not stupid. He did it on purpose. I thought he saved me because he felt sorry for me. Maybe he just did it for me. Lu Ran patted Mushi's back and comforted her. Damn it. This person is really hateful. He should be cut into pieces and thrown into the sea to feed the fish. You gave him face, didn't you? Once he put on a mask, he wouldn't love anyone? Cece, what kind of person is she? She has so many pursuers from the inner sea to the outer sea. You gave him face by taking a fancy to him, but he didn't cherish it. Han Fei was speechless. What the hell? Do you mean I have to cherish it when you take a fancy to me? Do I really have no self-control at all? Also, what made Han Fei speechless was that no matter how old or strong a woman was, they all behaved like this. They hugged each other affectionately, and their mouths were filled with jealousy. Listening to the two women's crazy complaints, Han Fei naturally lost interest. He got down from Mushi's body and hid in a dark corner. The white mist had long been and forged the universe. What was left in the Snow God Palace was only a projection of his half-king. His strength was there, so he was no different from a real person. Other than not being able to cultivate, the half-monarch projection was extremely strong in all other aspects. Even if there was a heavenly talent battle now, Han Fei was confident that he wouldn't lose. Since the plan had succeeded and he had successfully infiltrated the Glazed Skies ship, he naturally had no interest in listening to the two women's chatter. Han Fei entered Forge the Universe without attracting the attention of the two girls. Forge the Universe. Phew, Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief. His plan was flawless and could be said to be perfect. Han Fei suddenly realized that something was wrong here. Why is the spiritual energy in Forge the Universe so dense? Why did it seem that a lot of his 7 million top-grade spirit stones were missing? Han Fei confirmed it again. It seemed to be less than 5 million. It was very close. That's not right. Even if Senior Yuan and I absorb them together, where can we go? How can we absorb so many top-grade spirit stones in such a short time? Han Fei looked at the old turtle and asked, "Where are the spiritual stones?" The old turtle said, "I don't know. Originally, after taking Wu Hao's spiritual stones, there should be about 6 million left. But after entering the Bronze Gate, there are only more than 5 million left. Not only these ultra-quality spiritual stones, but also the energy that I suppressed. I'm afraid there's only less than half left." Hiss, Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "You mean I consumed them behind the Bronze Gate?" The old turtle nodded. "Of course. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for you to escape. Now, as soon as you came in, you discovered it. Although I don't know what you did behind the Bronze Gate, what's there? But you must have encountered a big opportunity. Is it related to the Void Temple?" The old turtle was now seriously suspicious. What secrets did Han Fei hide? The moment he entered the Bronze Gate, he didn't know anything. Until he came out, what happened behind the Bronze Gate? He didn't know anything. Han Fei said leisurely, "What did you learn from disassembling spiritual energy?" The old turtle was silent for a moment. "I've already learned 99%. What about you?" The old turtle stared at Han Fei closely, because he had a feeling, but he wasn't quite sure. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. He looked up at the sky and said pretentiously, "Me? 100%. The old turtle was shocked to the extreme. How is it possible? In this world, there is no such thing as 100% spiritual energy disassembly. It has never been recorded. I've never heard of it. However," Han Fei said, "in terms of spiritual energy disassembly, it's true that 99% is the limit. But, Old Yuan, do you know whether the Great Way strengthens the Taoist heart or the Taoist heart gives the power of the Great Way? Have you ever thought whether the Great Way or the Great Way comes first? Have you ever thought whether the Great Way really exists or not?" Han Fei had thought that this was definitely the most powerful show of pretentiousness that he had ever shown in history. It had always been Old Yuan who explained to him, and now it was his turn to do so. He would definitely let Old Yuan find that it was a wise choice to recognize him as his master. However, the old turtle blinked at Han Fei. "What did you say? Why are my ears buzzing? I can't hear anything." Han Fei was speechless. "Are you pretending? Have you been subdued by me? Are you too ashamed to admit it now?" The old turtle was puzzled. "Why am I convinced by you? I was a little sleepy just now and didn't hear a word you said. However, my heart trembled, and I seemed to have some enlightenment. Han Fei looked at the old turtle deeply and felt that he didn't seem to be pretending. So he said in surprise, "Wait, you really didn't hear what I said?" I said, "Blah, blah, blah." Then he saw that the old turtle directly sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. Han Fei was stunned for a moment and seemed to realize that the old turtle really didn't hear what he was saying. So he really heard everything behind the bronze gate, but he didn't understand anything. This seemed to be a kind of rule between heaven and earth. It seemed that at this last step, he had to comprehend it himself. And when those who had comprehended it talked to those who hadn't comprehended it, they were talking about a kind of heavenly way, a kind of heavenly book, a concept that they didn't understand at all. At this moment, Han Fei also understood. No wonder old Yuan never knew that someone could deduce the degree of spiritual energy disassembly to 100%. In fact, it was not that there was no one who could talk about it. But even if someone talked about it, you couldn't hear it. Since you couldn't hear it, and no one was going to talk to you, this could only mean that the old turtle was not an excellent emperor before. It was estimated that he was probably a loser among the emperors. As a result, he was led by AB** starred for a long distance. Therefore, a loser was already a mythical existence in the vast world of the 36 Xiantian heavens. So, even a loser in the world of the strong was so powerful that he had to try every means to subdue it. Han Fei couldn't help but be speechless. Old Yuan was really lucky to have such an excellent master. Otherwise, he would probably have reached the end of his life. Even if he could recultivate to the heaven-opening realm, he would still be a loser. Seeing that old Yuan went to cultivate, Han Fei thought for a moment and jumped down from the ice lotus. With a thought, this massive amount of spiritual energy went to expand the space of Forge the Universe. And Han Fei himself summoned the phantom of mountains and rivers and stepped into the sea-quelling painting. Xia Xiaochan was so anxious and restless in the sea-quelling painting that she couldn't cultivate anymore. The hexagon starfish said, "Stop shaking. You can't solve the problem even if you shake." Xia Xiaochan snorted. "You heartless bastard. You only know how to eat and sleep all day. Have you eaten my power of Tao?" The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. No, starfish didn't even eat a little bit. Didn't Han Fei say that the power had a stronger effect? Xia Xiaochan snorted. "You're smart. If I find out that the power is too little, I will skin you on the spot." The hexagon starfish shuddered and thought to himself, Xia Xiaochan was so easy to eat. Why was Han Fei so fierce as soon as he arrived? When Xia Xiaochan was teaching the hexagon starfish a lesson, she saw Han Fei appear with a swish. Immediately, Xia Xiaochan forgot about the hexagon starfish. She rushed over and hung on Han Fei. One of her hands was still raised high. "We're free," Han Fei thought to himself. It seems that this girl has indeed become stupid after being locked up for too long. Why is she so happy? Han Fei said, "Yes, you're free, but we can't go out yet. Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian, those two people, are searching for us one by one." Xia Xiaochan's body suddenly stiffened. "Then, you won't be found out, will you?" Han Fei smiled. "If I could be found out, would I still be here?" Wow, Xia Xiaochan rewarded Han Fei with a big kiss. "So, we're still free." Han Fei rubbed Xia Xiaochan's head and said, "We are now on the ship of the glass sky. It will probably take 3 to 5 days to return to the glass sky from here. During this period, you can make use of the power of Tao that escapes from the bronze gate." Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up and she asked curiously, "How do I use that power? I feel that power seems to be of great benefit to cultivation." The hexagon starfish also added, "I think that as long as I absorb this power, it will only take me a few months to break through to the peak stage of the venerable realm." Han Fei immediately said, "That's not enough." Han Fei said, "Let me tell you, the main use of this power is to reconstruct spiritual energy and reverse deduce the degree of spiritual energy disassembly." Chapter 1806. Reverse deduction of spiritual energy disassembly. Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish were both stunned. A moment later, when Xia Xiaochan sat down and tried to disassemble the spiritual energy for the first time, Han Fei saw that the power of truth was being consumed continuously. Han Fei thought to himself, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish have collected a lot of Taoist auras from the eldest senior brother's lectures. It was because Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish hadn't used it for 8 days in a row, so they didn't consume the power of the way until 5 minutes later. Phew, when Xia Xiaochan opened her eyes and saw that Han Fei was still standing here, she couldn't help but wonder, how long have I been cultivating? Han Fei smiled faintly. 200 seconds. Xia Xiaochan froze for a moment and asked in surprise, Only 200 seconds? Then, Xia Xiaochan suddenly exclaimed, How is it possible? My spiritual energy disassembly rate has reached 94%? The hexagon starfish also exclaimed, Starfish had reached 95%? What kind of power is this? It's a little too terrifying. How could it increase by so much? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, Girl, how old were you? 87%. The hexagon starfish also said 88%. Han Fei slightly frowned. Only 7%. That's not a lot. Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish couldn't help but look at Han Fei in surprise. This is not a lot. 200 breaths, an increase of 7%. That's almost as much as my 7 or 8 years of bitter cultivation. While talking, Xia Xiaochan suddenly realized something and asked, You went to the Bronze Gate. What's your spiritual energy dismantlement rate now? Han Fei's eyelids twitched, knowing that it was time for him to show off again. Han Fei said leisurely, Me? After so many years of hard work, I've finally reached 100%. How tiring. Xia Xiaochan, hexagon starfish. Listen to this. Is this even human speech? If the old tortoise were here, he would definitely feel complicated. This shameless guy has always used the power of hope to deduce the degree of spiritual energy disassembly. Almost effortless, and he still had the cheek to say that he had trained hard for many years. This explosive growth rate was only limited to the Tao runes that were born from a lecture. Xia Xiaochan and hexagon starfish could only use it once. Therefore, in Han Fei's opinion, their spiritual energy disassembly rate was still not high enough. However, there was nothing he could do about it. This was because if he were to use his own Tao to reconstruct the spirit chi, he would have to wait until the spirit chi had been disassembled to 99%, which meant that he had completely understood the structure of the spirit chi. As a result, even if Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish wanted to use their power of Tao to disassemble the spiritual energy, it was impossible. Han Fei also tried to explain to Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish, but just like the old turtle, Xia Xiaochan and the hexagon starfish were too confused to remember what Han Fei said. However, Han Fei found that although Xia Xiaochan and the others couldn't remember what they said, they seemed to have some inexplicable understandings deep in their hearts. This comprehension was like something hidden in the depths of one's heart that needed to be unleashed. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion for a few days. Do you want to come with me? Han Fei said, I have to pay attention to the situation outside. I'll call you when we reach the glazed sky. 10 days later. Han Fei didn't expect that it would take 10 days to go from the inner domain to the glazed sky. In the words of the old turtle, the route in the inner domain of the glazed sky was extremely complicated and was even very close to the misty. After going around in circles, it only took him 10 days to get there. And in the past 10 days, Han Fei had done something. All in all, this was equivalent to about a year's time. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei not only completely consolidated his strength of the Half-King realm, but also improved his pure mysterious body. At this speed, Han Fei suspected that he would probably reach the limit of the Half-King realm in another 10 years at most in Forge the Universe. As for the power of his soul, Han Fei's current soul power had probably reached the limit of a regular Half-King level deity king, or even higher. After all, not everyone in the chaotic Azure Sea had the same level of existence and bloodline as him. The glazed sky, a place where there was more yin than yang. Xia Xiaochan said that the ratio of men to women here was 1:10. After Han Fei quietly followed her out of the boat, he found that it was true. The main city of the glazed sky was called Heavenly Treasure City, which meant Heavenly Treasure Glaze. The city structure of the Heavenly Treasure City was similar to that of the major immortal palaces. Because it was built at the same time, the structure of the immortal palaces was not very special. Of course, the colors of the city were more fancy than those of other immortal palaces. This, Han Fei understood. It was normal for a place with a lot of women to be fancy. Even in the yin-yang sky, the battlesuits men bought were all black, white, blue, and gray. But the women's refining workshops had all kinds of colors and all kinds of jewelry. They were so shiny that you couldn't see them. This glazed sky was also a place with a lot of women. Including the colors of the buildings, they were all colorful. After sneaking out, Han Fei just strolled on an island at random and found that the whole street was full of fragrance. He didn't go to learn more about the glazed sky, so he didn't let Xia Xiaochan out immediately. Han Fei thought that he would only be in the glazed sky for a short time. As long as he found Iner and took her away, it shouldn't be a problem. The nautical panorama turned quickly and pointed in a direction to the north. Half a day later, Jingxin Taoist Academy in the glazed sky. In a field of medicine in a mountain bamboo forest, Han Fei saw a girl in plain clothes. She was not tall, only about 1.6 meters tall, looked less than 20 years old, and was relatively petite. In terms of appearance, she was not very beautiful, even worse than Xia Xiaochan and Luo Xiaobai, but she was still good-looking. Because of her petite and quiet appearance, she looked like a girl who had just fallen in love. When a breeze blew and the sun shone on her face, the girl straightened up, showed a faint smile, and continued to sprinkle spiritual energy. Huh? A peak-level law enforcer? Han Fei was stunned for a moment. This girl must be Iner. Her temperament is definitely Iner. Han Fei forcibly raised his sister's temperament in his heart. In addition to seeing that Iner's strength was at the peak level of law enforcer, Han Fei could also see that Ine was not an ordinary person at all. Her body was absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy all the time. Then, she sprinkled this spiritual energy out and watered the medicinal field, causing the concentration of spiritual energy in this medicinal field to be abnormally high. Not an ordinary person, and she doesn't look stupid. With such talent, why is she only a peak-level law enforcer now? Han Fei couldn't help thinking, is it because Yin, or is Yin's soul and Yang's soul, are separated? Iner should be in an incomplete state now. She was still 2 steps away from being complete. One was to return as a Yin's soul, and the other was to revisit the Age of Doom and return safely. Only when these 2 steps were completed, Yin would be Iner, and she would complete the time leap from the Age of Doom to the present like him. Han Fei was about to step forward and capture her directly. However, suddenly, he clenched his fist subconsciously and felt something was wrong. Immediately, Han Fei frowned, took out the 9-palace ruler of destiny, and tested it. As a result, the ruler mark of the 9-palace ruler of destiny fell directly on the ominous hexagram. Huh? Is there a strong master watching over her? Since Han Fei could encounter an ominous hexagram in the Heavenly Treasure City, this was at least a king-level threat. This meant that Iner seemed to be farming here, but she was actually being watched over by a king. Is there a king from the glass sky here? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, why was Iner sent to the glass sky and he was sent to Earth? Just as Han Fei was thinking, something occurred to him. Outside this large medicinal field, about 600 kilometers away, 2 women were walking together and flying towards the depths of the medicinal field. The 2 of them arrived in an instant. One of them shouted from distance, Han, stop. Stop farming. We found a way to treat you. Iner, who was farming, suddenly heard that someone was coming. She straightened up and looked up in the direction of the newcomers. When the 2 of them arrived, Han bowed slightly and said, Iner greets Sister Wind Spirit and Sister You. The girl named Wind Spirit had a cold look in her eyes, and there seemed to be a hint of displeasure on her face. She said, Han Iner, you really should thank my brother. If my brother hadn't seen you suffering and felt sorry for you, such a good thing would never have happened to you. The girl named Sister You also said, Han Iner, This time, Master Uran visited famous doctors everywhere and finally got a great medicine from the Medicine King Heaven, which can cure your serious illness. Then you can make a breakthrough and become an explorer. Han Ener froze for a moment and then asked in confusion, "Sisters, will this work? I'm ashamed that Master Uran helped me so much." Wind Spirit snorted coldly. "If my brother hadn't fallen in love with you, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to find famous doctors and medicines for you. Once this matter is over and your illness is cured, you and my brother's marriage can naturally be held." Han Ener blushed slightly, but then she looked at the small house 100 kilometers away and said, "But, sisters, can we wait a few days, wait for teacher to come back before we go? Otherwise, if teacher doesn't see me when he returns, he will be worried." The girl named Sister you hurriedly said, "What are you waiting for? It was Marshal Aunt Feng who asked us to come to the medicinal field to find you. For the sake of this medicine, Senior Marshal Aunt Feng personally guarded the Jingxin Earthfire platform and specially asked us to come find you." "Ah, teacher asked you two sisters to come? But why is teacher waiting for us at the Jingxin Earthfire platform? Isn't that the forbidden area of Jingxin Dao Academy?" Wind Spirit said coldly, "Nonsense. To treat you, we need the power of Earthfire. Without the Jingxin Earthfire platform, it's difficult to treat you. Do you think that forbidden areas can be entered at will?" Chapter 1807. Han Fei thought to himself, "Did I guess wrong? Could it be that Ener was so talented, but she had been stuck at the peak of law enforcer because of some other disease? Marshal Uncle Foam? Since she was Ener's teacher, and she gave him an ominous divination just now, she should be a hidden strong master." Han Fei thought to himself, "I really came at the right time. Someone is going to treat my sister. But it makes sense. Just like himself, no matter how he cultivated, it was theoretically impossible for him to become stronger. And it was because of the demon purification pot that he embarked on the path of cultivation. His sister's current situation was much better than when he first met her, and someone was looking for medicine for her to treat. This was a critical moment for the treatment. If he kidnapped her directly, the other party would definitely go crazy. Han Fei thought to himself, "I might as well stay put for now. If Ener was sick and was about to be cured, but she was kidnapped by me, wouldn't I become a bad person? Would I want to take my sister's life? As for the marriage, it was impossible for the time being. His sister was only a peak-level law enforcer and hadn't even been to her home. She wasn't even complete yet. How could she get married? When the time came, he could just leave some resources and send that person away. If Ener really had someone in her heart, he would have to wait until she went to the Yin-Yang heaven." After listening to Feng Ling's explanation, Ener believed him. So the three of them began to fly towards the northern mountain forest of the Jingxin Dao Academy. It was an island of flames that was independent of this floating island. Because it had always been under the care of the Jingxin Dao Academy, few people came here. According to Feng Ling, to go to the forbidden area, they needed to take a special teleportation array. Therefore, the three of them used a jade slip as a teleportation array and went directly to the forbidden area. However, Han Fei's perception range was so large that he had already locked onto Ener. Even if they were within 100,000 miles, no matter where they went, he would still be able to find them. Besides, their goal was also very clear, which was to the north of the Jingxin Dao Academy. About 4,000 kilometers away from here, there was a mountain full of fire elements. In fact, in the glass sky, there was more than one place full of fire elements. There was also an extremely cold island, an island full of multicolored light, and a five-color island. When Wind Spirit mentioned the forbidden area just now, Han Fei guessed that it was one of the four islands. He didn't expect it to be the closest flame island. Buzz, Ener, and the other two took the teleportation array, and after a while, they appeared on the blazing island. With a thought, Han Fei moved forward quietly. In a glass sky, Han Fei should have been careful. However, with Han Fei's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fly around the heavenly treasure city openly without a king watching him. It took Han Fei 3 seconds to get here, which was already very low-key. With such a speed, Han Fei was confident that even a king might not be able to detect him. In the center of the island of flames, there was a deep, sunken valley. In the valley, there was a pagoda. According to Han Fei's estimation, this was a good place for refining. After the three of them arrived, began to sweat. The temperature here was bearable. However, the closer one got to the center, the more powerful the earth fire became, and the higher the temperature. It was still a little difficult for law enforcers. The Comhart earth fire platform was in the deepest part of the tower. Its temperature would probably reach her limit. However, when she thought that her teacher was waiting for her in the Comhart earth fire platform, couldn't help but smile. Was the disease that had plagued her for so many years finally going to be cured today? It would be a lie to say that she wasn't excited. Wind Spirit and Sister Yu looked at each other and nodded slightly. The two of them took out 2 tokens in their hands, and a bright light shot out from them, condensing into an array pattern. Han Fei took a look. This was a directional teleportation array. However, he saw something wrong. There were obvious fire patterns in the formation. Even the teleportation array needed this kind of fire Kong pattern, which meant that the temperature where they were going was extremely high and lethal. With Er's current strength, she should be able to bear it. However, Han Fei saw that was a little anxious, and the fire energy she absorbed was much more than the spiritual energy she had accumulated before. According to this absorption speed, it would probably be overloaded with energy in only 4 or 6 hours. She might even explode and die. Han Fei couldn't help wondering, what kind of disease is so troublesome? He didn't know if his Heaven Awakening Divine art would be better. What if he was cured after the Heavenly Awakening Divine technique appeared? Why should she suffer such a great pain? After all, the place where they were going was protected by an array. If Er's teacher was really a hidden sea expansion realm powerhouse, then if he rashly broke through the space, he would definitely be targeted by the other party. Maybe there would be a misunderstanding and a fight would break out. So, Han Fei simply quietly and quickly attached himself to Wind Spirit. The reason why he attached himself to Wind Spirit was that, after all, his sister was going to be treated later. If he attached himself to what if Er's teacher saw him? Maintaining a cautious attitude, Han Fei managed to be patient. As soon as the void turned, he felt a terrifying heat wave coming at him. This wasn't lava, but a flame crystal that burned in the void. Its energy was so strong that it had probably reached the level of a natural spiritual fire. Han Fei's face changed slightly. With this intensity of heat wave, it would be good if could hold on for an hour. Sure enough, with Er's talent ability, she could automatically absorb a huge amount of energy, which would only increase the pressure on her body. And Han Fei looked again. There was no King martial Uncle Feng here. There was only a man in the mid-level venerable realm. This man was obviously not martial Uncle Feng. Er's reaction at this moment made Han Fei realize that he had been deceived. Er's face changed drastically. Sisters, Master Yuran, where's my teacher? However, Feng Ling's face immediately brightened. She smiled and said, Teacher? You want to find your teacher? Go back to your medicine field and find him. Sister Yu also smiled lightly, changing her previous image of a nice person. She smiled contemptuously. Han we know that you have heavenly veins and are an extraordinary talent. Alas, you're sick in the head. Even your heavenly veins can't resist the disease. If martial Uncle Feng could cure it, he would have cured you long ago. Why would he wait until now? You're still too stupid. How could you even believe such nonsense? Wind Spirit smiled contemptuously. Han you want to marry my brother? As long as I take your heavenly veins, my brother will become the most talented man in the glass sky. When his strength improves by leaps and bounds, he may be able to marry Half-King Mu Shi or even Half-King Lu Ran. How can he fall in love with you? Shameless. Han Er's face was pale. She didn't expect that the person who always tried to get close to her would be like this in secret. Although Wind Spirit obviously didn't like her, she still brought Feng Yuran to the medicine field. Besides, the marriage proposal was only Feng Yuran's idea. Her teacher didn't agree at first, but as time went by, seeing that this person had been persistent, she didn't deliberately stop him. Until today, her teacher had been out for more than a month and hadn't returned yet. Unexpectedly, Feng Yuran showed her true colors today. Feng Yuran said, Han Iner, I didn't want to, but old lady Feng was too stubborn and didn't let you marry for a long time. To be honest, I really wanted to marry you. If I could give birth to a child in the future, it wouldn't be too late to take your heavenly veins. Oh, it's a pity that before she left, she became tough to me again. Tell me, what can I do? I must take advantage of this period to take your heavenly veins. At that time, who dares to kill me with the heavenly veins? Even if old lady Feng comes back, she can't kill me and destroy the heavenly veins, can she? Looking at these people whose faces changed greatly, Er's face immediately turned pale. A jade slip appeared in her hand. She said, "This is the power of my teacher's strike. None of you can resist it. Feng Yuran, it's lucky that you exposed yourself so early. Otherwise, if I was fooled and married to you, it would be the shame of my life." Feng Yuran shrugged and said, "I didn't want to marry you. How can I not be better than you? Look at yourself. You don't have the height, strength, or figure. Except for your small face and temperament, you don't have anything else. If it wasn't for your heaven's veins, how could I, Feng Yuran, be so stupid to marry you?" As Feng Yuran spoke, a figure suddenly flashed, and the jade slip in Er's hand disappeared and appeared in Feng Yuran's hand. Er hurriedly tried to detonate her divine soul, only to find that her divine soul was suppressed by Feng Yuran. Feng Yuran said leisurely, "Look, you're so stupid. If you secretly used the power of this jade slip from the beginning, you might really have a chance to kill us. But you foolishly took it out. You're just at the peak of the law enforcer level. Do you think you can stop me?" Feng Ling sneered and said, "Even if you succeed in killing us, you don't know how to get out of here. With the absorption ability of your heavenly veins, you can only wait for death." Kept retreating and quickly mobilized her spiritual chi, preparing to explode herself. She had made up her mind to die. She would rather die than let Feng Yuran get what he wanted. However, couldn't move because of a pressure. Feng Yuran said, "Don't waste your energy. I'm going to take your heavenly veins. You're not lucky enough. You should be the most brilliant talent in the glazed sky, but you're seriously ill. It's a waste to occupy the resources. I'll take the place of the talent for you." Buzzing, Feng Yuran pinched his fingers, trying to grab in front of him. However, in the next moment, a terrifying pressure suddenly descended upon them. Except for Feng Yuran and the other two were all prostrating on the ground. Feng Ling and Qian Yu's bones were mostly broken, and they were bleeding from their 7 orifices. They knelt on the ground. As for Feng Yuran, he was also kneeling on the ground. His flesh and blood were tearing apart. Next to them, a black figure stood proudly with his hands behind his back. He said leisurely, "What a vicious pair of brother and sister. Who do you think you are? Do you deserve to take the heavenly veins?" Chapter 1808. Welcome to the new leader, 7th Brown Bear. Thank you for your support. Add a chapter. Han Fei's sudden appearance was certainly unexpected to these people. At this moment, Hanin was looking at Han Fei blankly. For some reason, when this person appeared, she felt a sense of intimacy in her heart. She instinctively breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that this was the person her teacher left to protect her. Because this person saved her, she felt friendly and intimate. At this moment, Feng Yuran, who was kneeling on the ground, said with difficulty, "Senior, I am the only son of the Feng family of the Heavenly Treasure City. Please forgive me for the sake of the Feng family." Han Fei said coldly, "The Feng family is nothing. Today, even if the Azure Sky Master comes, you won't be able to survive, let alone the Feng family." Everyone. Hanin secretly stuck out her tongue, thinking that this senior was so domineering. He even compared him with the master of the Azure Sky Master. Feng Ling said, "Senior, you can certainly kill us. However, in this way, there will be no place for Han, and Granny Feng in the Azure Sky. Why don't we both take a step back? The Feng family will offer a generous gift to make up for Han and Winner takes all." Feng Ling and Feng Yuran searched around for more than a month. After confirming that Han had no help, they finally took action. Unexpectedly, Han Yner was still protected by someone. Now that she had been defeated, she had no choice but to admit defeat. However, Han Fei sneered. You deceive my sister with your little mouth. Do you think you can still live? Bam! Han Fei snorted, and Feng Ling's arms exploded. He groaned in pain and lay on his side on the ground. Little sister, Feng Yuan glared at Han Fei. Do you know that if someone is killed, there will be nothing we can do? Who the hell are you? If you know the Feng family, you should know that the Feng family has 7.5 kings. Not everyone can afford to offend us. Han Fei grinned and looked up at the void. Who am I? Then listen to me. I am Han Fei, the current leader of the Yin-Yang Heaven. The heaven vein you've been longing for all this time belongs to my younger sister. The one in the void, come out. Today I have to kill these 3 people even if I can't. I want to see what kind of dragon's pool and tiger's den the glazed sky is. Why can't I barge in? Han Fei's words were like a bolt of lightning that struck Han Yner's heart. For a moment, she was at a loss and looked at Han Fei in shock. How is this possible? How could she have a brother? Moreover, he was the current immortal master of the Yin-Yang Heaven. Who didn't know that Yin-Yang Heaven had already perished in the chaotic Azure Sea? Where did the master of the Yin-Yang Heaven Immortal Palace come from? Not to mention Yner. Even Feng Ling and Feng Yuan were dumbfounded. The first thing they thought was that this man was a liar. It was impossible. Feng Yuan said, "That's impossible. Yin-Yang Heaven has disappeared for 80,000 years. How could you possibly come from the Yin-Yang sky? And you call yourself the Immortal Master?" Just when everyone expressed their disbelief, Han Fei didn't even look at them. A black shadow emerged in front of Han Fei. In the next moment, an old lady with white hair quietly appeared. As soon as Han Yner saw the old lady, she hurriedly ran over. "Master!" The old lady heaved a long sigh, reached out to touch Han Yner's head, and then stared at Han Fei. "You're finally here. I didn't expect that it wasn't either of them who came." Han Yner's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. What does Master mean by this? You're finally here? Could it be? Could it be that this person in front of me is really my brother? Han Fei raised his head and looked at the old lady. Demon, Xian Feng? While everyone was stunned, the old lady smiled gently. How do you know that I am Xian Feng the demon? Han Fei said lightly, when I found the medicinal field, I found that the spiritual energy in the medicinal field was not normal. The entire medicinal field is an array, which is in harmony with nature. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, this should be your plan. You want to test the brother and sister of the Feng family or this Feng Yuan. So, you made an excuse to leave and waited until today. Yner's strength is not strong. She has a heavenly heritage, so it's impossible for her to be here without the protection of a strong master. I originally guessed that it was the Lord of Glaze who was looking at Gu Yner, but when I sensed that the temperature in this place had dropped slightly to Yner's limit, I was certain that it wasn't the Lord of Glaze. With that, Han Fei looked at the old lady and said, "The only person I can think of is you, the Xian Feng demon." Feng Yuan's heart trembled. The Xian Feng demon? The captain of the demon girl pirates? A king-level master? Feng Ling was dumbfounded, and so was Qian Yu. Is this Han Yner's background so terrifying? In fact, even Yner was looking at her teacher in astonishment. She was indescribably shocked. It turned out that her master was the captain of the demon girl pirates. Only then did Han Fei look at Yner with a gentle gaze. In fact, Han Fei guessed this because of the 9-palace ruler of destiny. And part of the reason why he guessed this was because of the gambling mentality. Han Yner was shocked. Feeling Han Fei's gaze, she didn't dare to look at him, but she was very curious. As for her background, she was not so surprised. This kind of mental fortitude was truly rare. Xian Feng said lightly, "Since you know I'm here, why did you still attack?" Han Fei glanced at Feng Yuan. "How can I stand by and watch when my sister is in trouble?" Xian Feng said lightly, "Since I attacked, I can only attack to the end." Although the relationship between the Yin-Yang Heaven and the Glass Heaven is good, the Palace Master has been away from the chaotic ocean for a long time. The Feng family is indeed a strong family in the Glass Heaven, and they are even stronger than Feng Yuan said. Otherwise, I would have rejected this marriage a long time ago. Han Fei tilted his head. Just 7.5 kings? Qian Feng smiled gently. What do you think? Han Fei snorted. Do you mean the Feng family has kings? Qian Feng asked. Do you still dare to fight if there are kings? Han Fei smiled. How many kings are there in the glass heaven? Qian Feng said, There are 4 kings, the Lord of Glass, Qiu Yueming, Feng Xinluan. I am the grand mystic phoenix. Han Fei looked at Qian Feng. I didn't plan to meet you, but now that I see you, I understand. Who can you stop? Qian Feng smiled foolishly. Do you think I will help you? Han Fei said, Since you have been taking care of Ener for so many years and spent more than a month to fish out these people's vicious intentions, if you had other plans, you wouldn't have waited until now. Qian Feng smiled faintly. Today, the Lord of Glass went to the Taishian heaven. Han Fei's heart did a flip. So, now there are only Qiu Yueming and Feng Xinluan left in the glass heaven. Qian Feng's meaning couldn't be more obvious. The Lord of Glass's departure was probably the last straw that drove Feng Yuran to take the risk. And the departure of the Lord of Glass also meant that there were only 2 kings left in the glass heaven, except for Qian Feng. Now, it seemed that Qian Feng wanted to see his courage and strength when she asked him if he dared to fight. Han Fei said with a smile, I dare to fight the crazy 4 kings, so I can certainly deal with Feng Xinluan. If you want to see, then see. Then Han Fei reached out and grabbed Feng Yuran's neck. Using the void lines and the soul-searching technique, he immediately found the location of the Feng family. Han Fei grinned. After all, the yin-yang heaven will return sooner or later. Today, let's take it as the beginning. Boom! On the Jingxin Earth-Fire platform on the Island of Fire, there was a roar between heaven and earth. The sound spread for thousands of miles and rippled in the void. At that moment, in the glass heaven, countless half-kings and venerables opened their eyes and looked in the direction of the Jingxin Earth-Fire platform. They saw someone walking in the void, crossing the glass heaven with a step of 1,000 miles. The man came out of the fire, and the void behind him burst into flames. He went straight to the Feng family. At that moment, under the divine palace, Qiu Yueming, who had just returned, changed his face greatly. Grand Mystic Phoenix? Wait, who is that person? A charming woman from the Feng family saw through the void. She saw someone carrying a descendant of the Feng family, walking in the void. Is he asking for a fight? At this moment, the entire Feng family was on guard against a formidable enemy. The strength of a newcomer was extraordinary. He was obviously here to pick a fight. 6 half-kings of the Feng family stepped in the void in a row. It was lucky that the other person was not here. Among the 6 half-kings, an old man shouted on the spot. Who are you? What do you want to do with the descendant of the Feng family? Feng Ling and Feng Yuran were already scared out of their wits. They had never seen such a scene before. The master of the Yin-Yang Heaven Fairies and the captain of the Witch Pirates were hiding in the glass heaven. At this moment, they suddenly appeared. Who wouldn't be scared? Feng Ling only had time to shout, Third Grandpa, help. Feng Ling only had time to shout this, and then she fell silent. That was because her soul had already been controlled by someone else. The so-called Third Grandpa was the youngest of the 6. He seemed to be a young man. This person shouted, How dare you? You dare to bully our Feng clan. Let my granddaughter go. Otherwise, we can't solve the problem today. Han Fei raised his eyes. Is this the attitude of the Feng family? BM, with a thought from Han Fei. The person named Qian Yu blew herself up. In an instant, her soul was annihilated. At this time, Qian Feng arrived late with Hanin. The 2 of them didn't walk fast. Qian Feng said, Ener, I didn't know you had a brother, but it's very likely. I also have an ominous feeling about him. So, I won't give you to him casually. Let's see if he chooses to go with him in the end. Ener's heart was in a mess at this moment. It would be a lie to say that she was not excited. As soon as this brother appeared, she felt a special sense of intimacy in her heart. That was the connection from the bloodline. She desperately hoped for this kinship. At this moment, seeing Han Fei begin to slaughter people in front of the Feng family, Ener couldn't help but panic. After all, The Feng family was not an ordinary family. Chapter 1809. Without hesitation, Han Fei killed one of them first. Then he said to the old man, "Are you mad at me?" Han Fei had fought his way up and experienced countless battles, big and small. When he was angry, he was full of murderous intent. When he was mad, his energy soared to the sky. At this moment, Han Fei just raised his head and killed a person. Although she was not a member of the Feng family, she was still a genius of a small family. At such a young age, she had already reached the realm of an advanced explorer. However, Han Fei killed her in public. How domineering was that? The third grandpa was about to be furious, but someone stopped him. "Who are you? Why did you do this to a member of the Feng family?" Although this person spoke to Han Fei, his eyes were looking at Xianfeng. BM, half of Feng Ling's body was directly broken and exploded into nothingness. A scream shook the entire Feng family. "How dare you? How could Han Fei's 100 beasts, soul-suppressing roar lose to them?" Han Fei's voice was like rolling thunder, and everyone in the Feng family below the venerable realm couldn't bear it. Fortunately, a large array appeared and blocked the voice. Han Fei shouted, "Did I give you any face? Where are your eyes looking? Can't you tell who is the real boss?" Immediately, everyone in the Feng family was angry but dared not speak. Feng Ling was pinched in Han Fei's hand, but this guy attacked like a madman without even blinking his eyes. This was clearly a provocation. At this moment, everyone in the Feng family and the half-lords couldn't sit still. They had been slapped in the face. If they still didn't take action, how would the other big clans and various venerable experts in the Heavenly Treasure City look after the Feng family? Swish, 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 then the 6 half-monarchs attacked simultaneously. Of course, the 6 of them knew that the battle couldn't start in the Heavenly Treasure City, but in the void. How could the billions of people on the floating island bear the battle between half-lords? However, when these people were about to pull Han Fei into the void, suddenly Han Fei stepped out, pointed his finger, and a golden light burst out, directly blowing up one of them. Then, Han Fei's figure flickered as if he had appeared in many places at the same time. He made a fist mark, held a big hand, or stepped on the void. The ability to absorb the spiritual energy within 100 kilometers in an instant and the palm or fist mark that contained a strong Taoist sense didn't give these people a chance to break the void at all. Bang, boom, boom, boom. One face and 3 books exploded. Although the other 2 did not explode, their bodies were badly damaged. Han Fei easily swept through the 6 of them. If he wanted to kill, the Feng clan's half-kings would be slaughtered in one breath. This scene shocked all the venerables in Heaven Treasure City. Hiss! Who is this child? Has a new king appeared in the glazed sky? Secondly, his speed can be considered peerless, and his strength is amazing. Half-kings from a Feng clan can't even take one round against him. Where did this person come from? With a wave of his hand, he shattered a half-king, yet he was still able to control his power and not let it leak out. What exquisite control! Of course, although Han Fei had smashed the half-king level powerhouses, he didn't kill them. He was just intimidating them. While the venerables of Heaven Treasure City were shocked, Qiu Yuanming arrived from the sky. She said, "Granny Phoenix, what's going on? Why do you let him do whatever he wants?" However, Xianfeng moved slightly and stood in front of Qiu Yuanming. She said lightly, "There must be a reason for this. Moon Monarch, why don't you keep watching?" Qiu Yuanming narrowed her eyes. Others might not know, but the king certainly knew Granny Phoenix's strength. This person had already reached the Pioneer Sea state and was not weak. She had been farming in the Jingxin Dao Academy. Apart from farming, she only had one disciple. Why did she suddenly get involved in today's matter? Seeing Granny Phoenix blocking her way and Han Fei's strength just now, Qiu Yuanming thought, this person is only a half-king, but he killed half-kings like crushing shrimps. Who on earth is he? However, since Feng Xinlan hadn't done anything yet, she might as well watch first. After being attacked by Han Fei, the half-kings all looked at Han Fei solemnly after they were reborn. The leader said, "Who are you? Where did you come from? Why are you attacking the Feng family so openly?" At this moment, they didn't want to drag Han Fei into the void to fight, because they couldn't defeat him at all. They even suspected that they had met a king. Han Fei grinned. "You've finally calmed down a little. Hee hee, but I don't want to talk to you. Let Feng Xinlan out." The 6 half-demon monarchs of the Feng clan turned red. Who would be able to endure such provocation? But they couldn't turn to a king every time something happened. If a king showed up, a small matter would become a big deal. The old man said, "I'm the master of the Feng family. Why bother the kings of the Feng family? Why don't we settle it here?" Han Fei didn't care. He said, "You want to settle it? Fine. Feng Ling and Feng Yuran tricked my sister and wanted to steal her heavenly heritage. If I hadn't come in time, I'm afraid it would have been done. Tell me, how will the Feng family appease my anger?" "Huh? Your sister?" At this moment, everyone focused their eyes on Hani. This little girl was also a legendary figure. Her heavenly heritage had long been seen through, and she had been kept in the Jingxin Dao Academy for cultivation. Because of Granny Feng and the Jingxin Dao Academy, no one would think about this person. Glancing at Feng Ling and Feng Yuran, the ancestral patriarchs of the Feng family could probably confirm the truth of the matter. However, they really didn't expect that this little girl had such a background. Qiu Yiming was also slightly surprised. He had never heard that this little girl had any relatives or friends. When she first came out, her talent was indeed amazing. However, soon, everyone found that something was wrong. This woman's soul body was incomplete, and she would definitely die during the heavenly tribulation. She would be stuck at the peak of law enforcer for the rest of her life. That was why many experts didn't want to take her as a disciple. The Feng family had a Sea expansion king. Even if it was just for Granny Feng's sake, as long as her descendants didn't die, they had to give in. Otherwise, what would others think of the Feng family? The leading half-king said, "Fellow cultivator, since this has happened, the Feng family will definitely punish these two severely. Fortunately, your sister is fine. The Feng family will pay 1,000,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones as compensation." Han Fei smiled faintly, and the aura around him fluctuated, making everyone realize that something was wrong. BM Feng Ling, who was in front of Han Fei, exploded and died on the spot. Feng Ling was just an explorer. If he exploded, he would really die, and there was no way he could be resurrected. "Don't you dare!" The half-kings of the Feng family all roared. They were all furious. Who would have thought that Han Fei would kill him so easily? Damn it! At least give us a reason. If you can't come to an agreement, why don't you talk about the conditions? What do you mean by killing people so easily? But even so, they didn't dare to take action. If it weren't for the king, they wouldn't even dare to confront Han Fei now. Qiu Yiming frowned deeply. "Granny Feng, is it too much?" Granny Feng smiled faintly. "You should pay with your life. There's nothing wrong with that." Iner couldn't help but be moved. She said, "Master, should we forget it?" However, her master, who had always loved her, shook her head slightly. "You can live if you commit some crimes. You can't live if you commit some crimes. In the world of cultivation, people are always different." Qiu Yiming's heart did a flip. What did Granny Feng mean? People are always different? Could it be that this little lass had a shocking background? In the sky above the Feng family, a beautiful woman suddenly appeared. She was in a green dress, and her eyes were cold. She said, "You've passed. Your sister is a human being. How can you slaughter the children of the Feng family? You're in trouble today." Han Fei's lips curled up slightly. "Oh, you've come out after all. Do you think you can put on airs as a king? However, it's never a good thing to put on airs in front of me. Feng Xinlan, right? I'll give you a chance. You can make a condition that I can't refuse. Don't make me take it myself." At this moment, everyone looked at Han Fei in a different way. Facing a king, he was so relaxed and calm. This courage alone was rare in the world. Who exactly was this person? If there was such a person in the glass sky, the Feng family must have heard of him. Feng Xinlan said, "You're a half-king. Who gave you the courage to challenge a king?" Han Fei said disdainfully, "I'll give you another chance to organize your words. Make a condition that I can't refuse." Feng Xinlan narrowed her eyes. "What if I say no?" As soon as Feng Xinlan said that, she disappeared without a trace. A Luan ring descended from the sky. However, apart from the ring, there was also a sky-reaching fist mark. Boom, clang, the ring was blown away by the punch. The terrifying, explosive power swept across the world. Stop! Xiao Yueming roared. The power of a king suppressed the world and locked the terrifying explosion in this space. Xiao Yueming roared. Do you want to destroy the heavenly treasure city? You're a king. How can you be so ignorant? Whether it was Qiu Yueming or Feng Xinlan, they were both shocked. Who the hell is this guy? He's just a half-king, but he could defeat a king? And he doesn't even retreat. Haha, I gave you a chance, but you didn't listen. What a shame. BM under the eyes of Qiu Yueming and Feng Xinlan. Han Fei controlled Feng Yuran to explode. Han Fei grabbed the power of the explosion and banished it into the void. Han Fei's dominance shocked the entire Feng family. Xian Feng watched this scene quietly from the beginning to the end. She thought to herself, the son of the palace master is so powerful. He's indeed the heir of the yin-yang heaven. He's even stronger than what Pearl described. At this moment, Han Fei said casually, you missed a chance. Now, I'll give you another chance. Give me a compensation that I can't refuse. Otherwise, the Feng family doesn't need to exist anymore. At this moment, not only Feng Xinlan was enraged, but even Qiu Yueming looked at Han Fei in shock. Are you *king crazy? Feng Xinlan gritted her teeth and said, I'd like to see how you're going to hurt the Feng family. Qiu Yueming roared, I don't care who you are. This is the glass sky. How dare you act violently in the glass sky? This is not just the Feng family's business anymore. Han Fei looked back at Xian Feng. At this moment, Xian Feng smiled and said, Moon Prince, let's wait and see. Qiu Yueming roared coldly. What are you waiting for? This butcher is wreaking havoc in the glass sky. Granny Feng, are you going to take advantage of your seniority just because the master of the glass sky is watching over you? Granny Feng said casually, If so, Moon Prince, don't blame me for attacking you. Qiu Yueming said coldly, Granny Feng, are you going to leave the glass sky? Granny Feng shook her head slightly. Yes, I don't need to stay in the glass sky anymore. The illusions of mountains and rivers appeared next to Han Fei, and Xia Xiaochan appeared. When Xia Xiaochan showed up, she was stunned. What's going on? Who's going to fight who? Han Fei said, Girl, take care of my sister for me. I'll meet the king of the glass sky. Although Xia Xiaochan didn't know what happened, the moment she saw Yin she immediately appeared next to Yin and Granny Feng. Granny Phoenix, on the other hand, glanced at Xia Xiaochan in surprise, thinking, Han Fei is worried about me. Han Yin and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other. The two looked at each other, and Xia Xiaochan smiled. Little sister. Yin blushed and immediately lowered her head timidly. After hesitating for a moment, she said with difficulty, Sister-in-law? When the king saw that Han Fei called out a half-king, they didn't wonder why Xia Xiaochan was a half-king, but that Han Fei carried a small world with him. A strong master who could carry a small world with him was a great opportunity. In the next moment, Han Fei disappeared instantly. Under Han Fei's feet, the void within 100 kilometers cracked and shattered. On Han Fei's fist, soaring killing intent was unparalleled, reflecting the sky. Han Fei said, Since you won't give it to me, I'll take it myself. Chapter 1810. Taishin Heaven. When Han Fei attacked the Feng family, the four palace masters of Taishin Heaven, Boundless Heaven, Glaze Heaven, and Sword God Heaven gathered. At this moment, a young man was standing respectfully below the four of them, reporting something. If Han Fei were here, he would definitely recognize this person. Wasn't this Song Kaiyuan who had been robbed by him twice? Song Kaiyuan said, For palace masters, it should be him. The man who calls himself Black Impermanence uses the Boundless Heaven's treasure, the Infinity Water. Not only has he embarked on the Invincible Road, but he has also mastered the Space Great Tao and an unknown Great Tao that can multiply his strength. I can't tell his disguise, but his offensive methods are similar to the heavenly, illusionary Divine Walk, the Big Dipper, and the 100 Beast Soul Suppression Roar. He should also have some connection with the Beast King Heaven. The one from boundless heaven said, Kaiyuan, just tell me, do you know who he is? If we didn't see it, there would be no need for us to come here. Song Kaiyuan nodded slightly. I only know one of his identities. Although this person tried to hide it, his momentum in battle can't be faked. He and Saint Child Shuizhan of the Snow God Temple are very similar when they use fist techniques. These two people should be the same person. Huh? Mui Shui Cece, who was reporting with Song Kaiyuan, widened her eyes in astonishment. When he wears that mask, no one will love him. Song Kaiyuan rolled his eyes at Mui Shui Cece and said, At first I wasn't sure, but it's not difficult to be sure after considering the details. Saint Child Shuizhan in the Heavenly Imperial Court battle ranked first, but in front of the Bronze Gate, he moved less than 1,500 meters. Then he wrapped himself in the Ice Lotus. It seemed to be an epiphany, but in fact it was not. With such an opportunity, there was no reason for him to stop. Shuizhan's physique was even better than Wu Hao's, and this person's physique was also very strong. In the end, Song Kaiyuan said this person has been on the Invincible Road for a long time. The Invincible Road is extremely rare in the chaotic vast sea. According to the principle of attraction, no matter how low-key he is, as long as he grows to the Demimonarch realm, there's no reason he won't be exposed. Even if he is in the outer sea, he can't hide the light of the Invincible Road. The Lord of Glaze asked, So, you're certain that they're the same person? The Sword Heavenly Skies Palace Master said indifferently. Is it possible that it's a clone? Song Kaiyuan shook his head slightly. It can't be a doppelganger. If it was his external incarnation, there was no need for Shuizhan to hide in front of the Bronze Gate. The land of the king's grave opened once every 300 years. He would not allow himself to remain there, so he must have come out by now. Since they were not avatars, they would have to avoid the detection of Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian if they wanted to come out. Either their concealment techniques had reached a level where even king tiers would find it difficult to detect them, or they had a small world with them. Even if he had a portable small world, someone would need to bring it out of the king repose land. So, how could he make these two disappear perfectly? This was a huge problem. Therefore, when all sorts of coincidences come together, it is no longer a coincidence. Song Kaiyuan slowly raised his head and said, In conclusion, this person is either a king-level beast tamer or a projection clone. Otherwise, the immortal masters glanced at each other. In the end, the Lord of Taishian Heaven said slowly, or the long-lost Gemini, divine technique. Mui Shui Cece looked at her senior brother in shock. She hadn't noticed anything wrong from beginning to end. Why did senior brother discover so many problems in the details? The one from the Sword God Palace said, In front of Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian, a king-level beast tamer would have nowhere to hide. The unique aura of the Expansion Sea realm could not be concealed no matter how hard he tried, unless his power completely surpassed Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian's. But with that kind of power, there was no need for him to go to the land of the king's grave, let alone rob it. The Lord of Glass nodded. That's right. He was already at the Expansion Sea realm. Why would he do something so boring? This person is probably not a king-level beast tamer yet. The one from the immeasurable heaven said slowly, So, the turbulence in the Savage Abyss a while ago was actually because someone came out. Song Kaiyuan said, I thought of this because of the turbulence in the Savage Abyss. Otherwise, I would have overlooked this matter and thought it was all a coincidence. The one from the immeasurable heaven shook his head slightly. It can't be a coincidence. You've already explained it to this extent. It's impossible to describe it as a coincidence anymore. The yin-yang heaven has disappeared for more than 80,000 years. I'm afraid those people are reaching the end of their lifespans. It's time for them to show themselves. The Taishian Heavenly Palace Master said, Actually, just the matter of the infinity water is basically enough. Don't forget, the place where Tianhuang City fell was in the yin-yang heaven. The one from the Sword God Palace said indifferently, Let's end this matter here. Once the yin and yang come out, how can Jiugong continue to fall? The Lord of Glass said, If the yin-yang heaven and Jiugong heaven return, the 36 Xiantian heavens will probably have to choose a new side. At least the Snow God Palace has chosen. The Taishan Heavenly Palace Master said slowly. I just don't know what happened to them. If they could really return, why would they need to hide? I'm not very optimistic about this right now. If they return, the 36 Xiantian heavens will go to war again and all lives will be lost. They might as well not return. The Taishan Heavenly Palace Master said to Song, Kaiyuan, and Mushui Cece, you two can leave. This matter can't be told by a third person other than the two of you. Yes, not long after Song Kaiyuan and Mushui Cece left, suddenly, Azure frowned. The one from the Sword God Palace asked, what's wrong? Azure said, there's something in the glazed sky. I have to go back first. Glazed sky, heavenly treasure city. The void within 1,000 miles cracked. Now, with all his strength, his spiritual energy dismantling rate was 100%. The power of the Great Path was 30% stronger than before, and his strength broke out to the limit. With a casual point of his hand, there was a super huge force of nearly 100,000 waves. The power of the Great Path condensed in an instant and moved at will. The power seemed to be infinite. This was the benefit of perfectly dismantling spiritual energy. And this was because Han Fei didn't have a clone projection. This kind of power was by no means comparable to ordinary kings. But at this moment, when Han Fei fought with the kings of the inner domain, he found that they were a bit evenly matched. In the end, he had underestimated the kings of the world. It stood to reason that with his current strength, he could almost beat the White Armor Emperor. However, today's battle with Feng Xinlan was just a draw. In Xian Feng's eyes, today, she just wanted to see Han Fei's strength and his means. Now, she had seen his strength. He could fight with Feng Xinlan like this at the Half-King realm. She accepted that the yin-yang sky was in his hands. As for his means, Han Fei was fierce and domineering. He would fight without saying a word, and he was full of murderous intent. Obviously, he didn't come here for nothing. This meant that Han Fei must have experienced a lot of things before. However, his domineering character made Xian Feng a little unhappy. This was a bit different from the style of the Palace Master. At this moment, the two sides had only fought for less than 5 minutes. Above the sky, there was already no sun, and the void cracks were everywhere. Occasionally, some auras escaped, forcing Xiao Yueming to temporarily suspend the game with Xian Feng and constantly clean up the mess of the two people in the sky. Xiao Yueming scolded, Feng Xinlan, stop. Do you want to destroy the heavenly treasure city? Feng Xinlan snorted. This guy dares to provoke the Feng family. How can we stop? Han Fei sneered. How noble is my sister's status? If the glass sky hadn't taken her in all these years, do you think it would be a small matter? Feng Xinlan scolded, noble? I'd like to know how noble her identity is. Han Fei sneered. I'm on the same level as the glass sky. What do you think of my sister? Feng Xinlan and Xiao Yueming's first reaction was, what are you bragging about? However, on second thought, this guy's strength is indeed terrifying. He's only a half-king realm, but he's already on par with a king realm master. If he passes the heavenly tribulation and becomes a king realm master, how strong will he be? The two of them thought more deeply. What does he mean by being on the same level as them? That Granny Phoenix was obviously on this guy's side. Her subordinate is a king realm master. This guy's identity, Xiao Yueming's and Feng Xinlan's hearts sank. Is he the master of a divine palace? BM Han Fei and Feng Xinlan threw their hands at each other and stood in midair. Feng Xinlan finally calmed down. Luli wasn't here. Xiao Yueming was stopped by Granny Phoenix, and this guy was on par with her. If the fight went on, only the heavenly treasure city would be damaged. However, Feng Xinlan couldn't turn a blind eye to Han Fei's fatal attack. Seeing that the two of them stopped, Xiao Yueming immediately stepped out of the void and came to them. Xiao Yueming roared, I don't care who you are. If you really touch the heavenly treasure city, you'll be a mortal enemy of the glass sky. Your sister has been saved, and the murderer was killed by you on the spot. If you push your luck again, you won't just be pissing off the glass sky. As if he didn't hear Xiao Yueming, Han Fei looked through the void and asked Xian Feng, Does Luli know Ener's identity? Xian Feng nodded. Yes. Han Fei asked, how long has Ener been in the glass sky? Xian Feng replied, 63 years. Han Fei was briefly stunned, but then he thought, there's nothing wrong with the number of years. Counting the time when he was on Earth, it was only a few years. In the world of cultivation, a mere few decades or centuries were no different from a few months or even dozens of months. Han Fei slightly nodded. Han Fei glanced at Feng Xinlan and Xiao Yueming indifferently and snorted. The glass sky's kindness of taking my sister in is over because of the Feng family. Tell Luli that I'm taking Ener away. When we meet again, it's up to you whether we're enemies or friends. I don't refuse anyone.